Whenever you're ready, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Sacramento City Council will please come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Thank you. Councilmember Kaplan? Here. Member Loy is absent. Councilmember Talamantes?
Here.
Member Valenzuela?
Here.
Member Maple?
Here.
Vice Mayor Guerra?
Here.
Excuse me, Member Jennings is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Vang?
I'm here.
And Mayor Steinberg?
I'm here. Good afternoon again to everyone. Councilmember Talamantes, would you please lead us in the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please rise for the opening acknowledgments in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, Patwin Wintun peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the Native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous people's history, contributions, and lives. Thank you. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Talamantes. Members, we begin tonight with a special presentation by Councilmember Kaplan.
Thank you, Mayor. I also will call on my fellow Councilmember Maple to say a couple words, as everyone else. Tonight and today we are here to recognize Women's Equality Day. We, as citizens of the United States, have continuously strived to gain full rights and privileges, public or private, legal or institutional, as citizens of the United States. And despite the fact that the right to vote, which is, we all know, a cornerstone of democracy, belongs to all citizens, women did not initially get this right until August 26, 1920. Where the 19th Amendment was passed that ratified making it illegal to deny citizens the right to vote based off of sex, where it allowed many women to have the right and a stake in the claim of what happens around them. But prior to adopting the Voting Rights Act of 1965, many southern states, which is often not talked about, continue to pass policies aimed at suppressing the vote of people of color, women, immigrants, and low-income populations. Finally, in 1971, Congress designated August 26th as Women Equality Day, a day of commemoration, celebration, of recognizing the extraordinary work that women do to change despite the challenges that still face us. We know history is a reminder of all of us of this selective equality that affords benefits to a privileged few. And it is a simple form of inequality in disguise. And Women Equality Day gives us the opportunity to strive and say, more still has to be done. More for equality in pay, more for equality of voting rights for everyone, more equality in the right to say what we need and can and cannot do with our body, to vote for childcare, support in domestic violence, and everywhere else. But I am happy to be part of a little bit of history here in Sacramento as only the second female majority council in our history, and more needs to be done. So I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember Maple, as I am the, by age, eldest on the council, and she is wise in her youth.
That's very kind of you. Thank you. Well, I just want to say that one of the groups to be, recognized here tonight is the Sacramento County. The Commission on the Status of Women and Girls. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. And I'm really excited about this because, for those who don't know, when I was first starting out getting involved in local politics and just around in my community, I was a part of a group called the Women and Girls Advancement Coalition. And a part of that group, one of their goals and missions was actually to push for the creation of a commission on the status of women and girls in Sacramento County. So it's really amazing to see such a group here today. So this group is here to improve the social welfare, health, economic status, and overall quality of life for women and girls in Sacramento County, raising awareness of women's issues, celebrating achievements of local deserving women, championing opportunity, and a resource to advance gender equity, justice, and well-being for all women and girls. And I think I wanted to really push on something that you said earlier about equity, right? It's not just about it's not just about the job, it's not just about pay, it's about all of the other ancillary things that go into that, right? Things that can oftentimes hold women back, and that's things like childcare, right? And so we have to look at things in their totality in order to have real advancement and improvement. So really proud to be speaking today, and would like to invite all the folks up that are coming to speak. Yatin Campbell.
Who's a commissioner with the Sacramento County Commission on the Status of Girls. We also, before you give a couple of statements, have tonight Christine Laego, who's the program coordinator for Dress for Success Sacramento, as well as Veronica Smith, who's the founder of Dress for Success Sacramento. One of their volunteers is actually Laura Pearson, who's the St. John's program for Real Change. She's a vocational and GED teacher who supports women. And so Dress for Success is really also highlighting the support for women and girls from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. They offer services that help them acquire jobs, retain their jobs, succeed in the workplace. They are really focused on economically disadvantaged newcomers to the United States, single mothers, as well as victims of domestic violence. They have I Am Proud. They are in District 1 as they have a showroom that's a retail store that helps women find clothing for their jobs as well as many other items. And they provide women whatever they need for that interview. Because we know equality is more than an outfit, but sometimes that outfit helps create that equality that we so need. I also have here Paula Lee, who is the president of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County, and Tamiko Heim, who's a board member as well for the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County, first organized in the 1930s. And they are truly our independent advocates for respect of individuals, the value of diversity, and the empowerment of the grassroots, both within the league and within the communities. And I will say, California leads on a lot of things, and I hope we can start leading in the nation to pass the Equal Rights Amendment so that women are recognized equal in all areas. But I'd like to welcome up Dress for Success first, if you wouldn't mind coming up and saying a couple words, and then we'll take a picture down front. Thank you so much.
And for including us. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for uplifting Women's Equality Day and for allowing us to be here to receive this resolution. Through the work that we do in the community, we are reminded daily of the struggles that women have. Our clients have overcome homelessness, incarceration, trafficking, domestic violence, and so much more. I am living proof of what Dress for Success does. While we have come so far from a civic, economic, and political perspective, we still have a ways to go. And we are committed, along with many of our partners, to doing the work, fighting for equal rights, helping to close the wage gap, and helping women achieve success in all aspects of their lives. Thank you again, Councilmember Kaplan, Mayor, Council. Councilmember Kaplan, we look forward to seeing you and your staff this Saturday on Women's Equality Day at our Stretch for Success Health and Fitness event. Thank you for your support.
Paula?
Hello, council members. Well, we have been around the Sacramento League since 1939. There's a long way to go, at the national level especially. When we look here locally, we see women elected. Yay. But nationally, we're pretty far behind, considering that we are over 50% of the population and law school, medical school graduates, and hey, women vote more than men do too. So we have a ways to go before we have true equity in representative government. But it looks good here, and Tamika will say about some things about what our goals are locally.
Hi, all. So our goals lately are to get more diverse people out there in the polls. We are reaching out to different communities and hoping to build up that need and that want to vote more. So if any of you all have events coming up that would like us to participate in, please let us know, because we truly are committed to making sure that everyone votes. So thank you.
Thank you, City Council Member Maple and Kaplan, for having us here today, and for your kind words, City Council Member Maple. The Sacramento County Commission on Status for Women and Girls is working really hard with our partners like the City of Sacramento, Justice for Success Sacramento, League of Women Voters, to continue to raise awareness about the needs of women and girls in our county. We are continuing our march towards equality in funding and in supporting, improving, and creating more programs and services to support our community. We welcome everyone to participate in our meetings and join with us so our voices can be heard in what's needed for our region on items like mental health, domestic violence, jobs, housing, childcare, and more. We appreciate the work the city has done on the Child Care Coalition, and we are participating in the newly formed County Coalition, which included feedback from the city's efforts. Thank you to our council members, Maple and Kaplan today, and the City of Sacramento for thinking of the commission and including us in the city's support for women and girls. If you want to learn more about us, you can go to our Facebook page, and we thank you for your invitation today.
Thank you. All right. First of all, just thank you so much for taking the time to come to City Council to remind us that equality is not yet achieved for women, far from it. We have to keep working at it, all of us. Councilmember Valenzuela?
Thank you, Mayor. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. It just for, I have this poster that someone gifted me of Sojourner Truth saying like, ain't I a woman? And so I just want to appreciate the highlight of women of color and the persistent, like women in general have persistent challenges, but women of color, not just in wage gap, which is often talked about and is persisting and is really, really not okay, but when it looks even to something like voting, and I want to thank you for mentioning voting, because we know when voting rights are restricted, it's disproportionately impacting precincts and zip codes that where women of color and people of color are living. And so just want to take this, equality and equity are two words that we often interchange, but they do not mean the same thing. And when we talk about Women's Equality Day, I almost wish we could call it Women's Equity Day, because I think it not only speaks to wealth and access to it, but also to really looking internally to women's rights movements and women's organizational work and how we are specifically tailoring and lifting up leaders of color in that space. So I want to thank the speakers who are here tonight for doing just that in your comments and in your practice, and really just want to continue to bang that drum of yes, equality, but equity, and making sure that we're doing all we can to address and lift up the persistent challenges that women of color specifically are continuing to face. So thank you.
All right, thank you to Council Members Kaplan and Maple for bringing this forward. We're going to take a picture, please. Everyone who participated. I'm sorry, did I?
Yeah, just Mayor, I
didn't see you up there.
It's okay. No, I wanted to quickly just thank not only all the presenters here, but also the coalition for women and girls who had helped us create not only a citywide but a countywide task force on child care, which now has had our statewide, our county employment training agency looking at how we really tackle this challenge. And it wouldn't have happened without the advocacy effort of that great organization. So I want to just give them give them a round of applause, because they never get any attention, and I appreciate their work. So.
Please, everyone who's here for the resolution, please come up and we'll take a picture. And I think all the women of the council, please, and the assistant city clerk, come on.
Hey, you gonna hold this?
Can we go down?
No.
Oh, thank you.
I know, right?
Do you want us down or up?
It just seems.
It seems.
Staff. Oh, I'm taking pictures.
No, please, okay. Here we go.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And then, all right, right up here. In 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. All right, there's like 7 more pictures.
1, 2, 3. More on this phone. All right, 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right, great way to start the late afternoon meeting. Members, let's move to the consent calendar, items 1 through 15. Are there any items that members would like to discuss or vote on separately?
Mayor, I'll move consent.
Moved by Vice Mayor.
We have one.
I understand. Vice Mayor moves. Councilmember Maple seconds. Let's hear from the public.
We have one person in the audience. That would be Armand Alexander.
Armand Alexander here. Please.
Hi, I'm Armand Alexander. I live in District 4 in Midtown, and I was just happy to hear more about bringing the new restaurants and the entertainment to Sacramento. So I'm so excited about that. So I just wanted to tell you, Katie Valenzuela, that you're doing an awesome job. Thank you so much.
Glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you. All right, we do have a motion and a second on the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain. That passes unanimously 7-0. Members, we now move to the key items for the evening, and that is the discussion calendar. I'm going to propose that we actually take items 17 and 18 together. I know they're separate presentations, but let's take one right after the other. Then we'll take public comment on both, public testimony on both items, and we will discuss both of them. Thank you. Ms. Venema, welcome.
Thank you,
It's good
Mayor.
to see you.
Great to see you and the council tonight. For everyone, I'm Jennifer Venema, our Climate Action Lead. I've got a few slides that should pop up on our screen here. To kick us off, I'm here tonight with our fleet manager, Allison Kerstetter, and additional city staff. And if we could flip to the first presentation, please. We're providing an update to you tonight on our quarterly climate progress. This is a discussion item with no recommended action. So as the mayor noted, this is a two-part update. We're starting first with where we are, current status, and near-term efforts. Next, our team in community development will walk us through the longer-term Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, or CAP for short. The City of Sacramento has committed to carbon neutrality by 2045, while committing to move as fast as possible by 2030, as outlined in the city's Climate Emergency Declaration. So tonight we'll be covering both the near term and the long term. So first off, our near-term climate priorities are identified in the Climate Implementation Work Plan. Much of this work is still underway, including active work on 23 high-impact actions that are being conducted across the departments. You can see some of our city team here in this photo of folks working on these projects. And as a reminder, as we reminded you in May during our last update, for the City Council's one-time investment of $4.4 million for those priority near-term tasks, we've been able to work collaboratively to secure over $145 million of external funding for the city's climate-related work. And in addition, thanks to you, Mayor and Council, we have a new position from the city budget added to our climate team. I'm happy to report that in just a couple of days, that specialist position will be posted so we can fill it. We're also adding Civic Spark Fellows. 3 will be placed across our organization for the upcoming service year. And we're recruiting interns through the Californians for All program to launch a climate ambassadors cohort that will be hosted by our team. Here's a few additional highlights of work completed since we last spoke to you in May. Staff have submitted $14 million in grant requests for climate-related needs, including a $5 million application for an equitable and resilient forest program for expansion of tree canopy in disadvantaged communities. These are indicated with federal designations in the red hatching on the map here. This scope would deliver about 2,000 tree plantings across the city if it's funded, with a strong workforce component along with community partnerships. If awarded, this would augment city funding we've already set aside for tree planting. Plus, staff submitted a $9 million grant application to enhance flood resilience. We've deployed a total of 186 air quality sensors through our partnership with the Air Quality Management District. This is a city-funded effort benefiting residents, businesses, and 13 participating schools across the city. We've worked with the Youth Parks and Community Enrichment Department to host a 3-part sustainability series as a part of Summer at City Hall in July. City staff is also advancing longer-term policy frameworks, notably the existing building electrification strategy, which was just released publicly last week. This will be discussed at the Planning and Design Commission this Thursday. Staff will be bringing it to the council in 2024 after the general plan and CAP are adopted. A few quick transportation updates. We're excited to report that on the transportation front, just this month, we launched the e-trike lending program as a pilot in partnership with Sacramento Public Library. We're starting with 5 e-trikes available at Colonial Heights Library. This is part of the overall EV blueprint effort, which is placing public level 2 chargers at 13 city sites across the city in areas underserved by infrastructure. The project also includes creative outreach. We've included a snippet of the forthcoming comic book here, a clean mobility comic book developed by our own local Impound Comics. In addition, you will now see throughout the city the Central City Mobility Project that's well underway with new green paints and lane improvements. This is a big project, $15.5 million in construction to put in over 70 blocks of separated bikeways throughout the central city to provide for safer biking while reducing vehicle speeds. In addition, just last week, Public Works also kicked off the Broadway Complete Streets project to foster more sustainable transportation. That's a $13 million effort with work starting in September. Other supportive projects include the city's 5 Clean California grants. That's $16 million that's underway for community beautification, as well as improvements that enhance pedestrian safety. Here's an example of a mural from 21st Avenue. While we've made progress, it's important to remember that we have significant funding needs ahead. Full implementation of our greenhouse gas reduction goals for 2045, we estimate will require over $3 billion in new funding. Although we've made progress since 2021, securing additional investments, new tasks keep emerging, and additional costs are coming on an accelerated timeline. As one present example, the Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation establishes new requirements for local fleets like ours. The intent of this is to advance the adoption of zero-emission vehicles in fleets, consistent with our own local policy direction and commitments. However, the state mandate will have an accelerated and significant cost impact that will need to be incorporated into our budget beginning next year. We want to provide a preview now in preparation for that budget planning. And to walk us through this, I'll turn it over to our fleet manager, Allison Kerstetter.
Good evening. The Advanced Clean Fleets Regulation has been adopted by the California Air Resources Board to accelerate the adoption of zero-emission vehicles in the medium and heavy-duty truck sector in the state of California. Medium and heavy-duty vehicles consist of any vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating of 8,501 pounds or more. We have 806 vehicles in this category, which includes emergency vehicles that are exempt from the regulation. Currently, we do not have any medium or heavy-duty EVs in our fleet. There are two compliance options that fleets may choose from within the regulation, which are very aggressive with their timetables. The option the city chooses must be determined by April 1st, 2024. There are a number of actions that must take place, and it will be a complex process. Staff continue to evaluate full details of implementation. We have partnered with SMUD to evaluate fleet and infrastructure needs to determine potential cost. We are engaging a consultant team to evaluate the fleet maintenance shop retrofit and training needed for our maintenance staff. Staff is also scheduling a meeting with CARB staff to address questions we have regarding the ACF to ensure correct implementation by the city. We need to move quickly to determine a compliance pathway and resources needed. This regulation will exceed the city's existing fleet and infrastructure budgets. Staff will return with estimated cost once we have more confidence based on our work with SMUD and the consultant team. Importantly, extensive staff time will be needed for the quarterly reporting, amendments to city contracts by all departments, and implementation of the regulation for contractor compliance on behalf of the state as mandated. While this regulation will spur the advancement of the medium and heavy-duty electric vehicle market, in the near term, higher vehicle costs and limited market availability will pose challenges, in addition to the extensive need to expand city infrastructure to support medium and heavy-duty charging. First, the city is strongly committed to fleet electrification and is a recognized leader in this space. In 2017, City Council adopted the Fleet Sustainability Policy, in which we committed to the acceleration of fleet electrification. The ZEV First commitment is becoming easier to adhere to for light-duty vehicles as there are more available and the vehicle range is greater than when the technology was first adopted. About 10% of our light-duty fleet have already been electrified, and there are currently 58 chargers at city facilities to support them. We've also placed our first order for 8 Ford Lightnings in August 2022 as part of our annual fleet replacement process. However, these have not been manufactured and we have no ETA. Some challenges for implementation are pricing, infrastructure, and lead times. Although we cannot estimate a total cost to comply with the regulation, we can provide an initial example of costs for purchasing an electric heavy-duty truck compared to a compressed natural gas or CNG truck. In September 2022, the city ordered an electric refuse truck for a pilot to test operational needs. This truck cost $738,000. The charger that was installed to electrify the truck cost roughly $200,000. At this particular site, which is the Meadowview Service Center, we were fortunate to have an adequate power supply to support the charger. The CNG equivalent truck, which comprises most of our refuse truck fleet, cost $534,000 in July of 2023. This single electric truck is 1.7 times the price of a standard CNG option when accounting for infrastructure. This does not account for the costs that could be triggered for sites that lack adequate power and may require new transformers or new substations to support charging. Lead times are also a challenge for all vehicles and equipment. We ordered the electric refuse truck over a year ago. It's estimated that the electric chassis will be sent to the body vendors for completion within the next few weeks. However, we do not have a delivery date for the truck. Another example that can be provided is the difference in cost for an electric heavy-duty chassis versus an internal combustion engine chassis. The city would normally purchase a Freightliner M2 truck for a heavy-duty application such as a 5-yard dump truck. The current price for the state contract for this truck model with an internal combustion engine is $75,000. The same truck, which is electric powered, is $342,000 on the state contract. The extra cost is a concerning factor in the implementation. Other items that will require additional costs to comply with the regulations are maintenance shop retrofits, needed tools, and training for staff members. The current configuration at all 6 maintenance locations is not compliant with certain OSHA requirements to work on EV, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles. As was stated in previous slides, we do not have an exact number of the cost to electrify the fleet. However, preliminary estimates for fleet replacement projections that would be requested over the next 5 years could greatly impact future budgets. Please keep in mind our replacement budget, which does not include the cost for fire apparatus or medics, for fiscal year 2024 is $21 million. Using our current replacement model and basing the estimates on the 2024 replacement purchasing for the fleet vehicles could cost between $10 and $30 million additional dollars per year. These preliminary numbers do not include the cost for installing infrastructure or the retrofits or possible rebuilding of maintenance shops. Of course, we will seek out grants and partnership support wherever we can. We will be working with our manufacturers, but we anticipate significant additional city investment will be needed. For advanced clean fleets, we will report back as more is known and will work with the budget office for near-term needs. We expect to see the implications of the ACF beginning in next year's budget. Even as we work on the operational logistics, city staff from departments continue to advance a number of the critical plans and efforts. Staff will continue to keep the mayor and council apprised of the progress of these tasks. This concludes our presentation, and thank you for your attention. We'll be available for any questions.
Okay. Let us now, is that complete the presentation on both items?
No, just for the first item.
Just for the first item. Okay. Now we'll move to the next item before we take the public testimony.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor Steinberg and members of the City Council. I'm Vic Randall, a senior planner with the Planning Division. Appreciate the opportunity to join you tonight to provide an overview of the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan, or CAP for short. I would also like to extend gratitude to our colleagues across the city, partner agencies, and community members that have helped shape the CAP for you today. Continued collaboration will be a key element of successfully implementing the CAP measures, actions, and goals. I'm joined here tonight by several core members of the project team who will assist in responding to any questions the council may have. The public comment period for both the General Plan and Climate Action and Adaptation Plan began on April 28th with the public release of both draft plans. Over the course of the past 4 months, the project teams have conducted many pop-up events in the community, hosted 3 citywide webinars, and have given presentations to a variety of stakeholder groups. We've also presented and obtained input from 7 city commissions. So the CAP was strongly guided by the foundational work and key strategies identified in the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change report, which we will find reflected in CAP measures, including strategies to advance electrification in the built environment and to prioritize active transportation over other transportation modes. The city has also acted with urgency as recommended by the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change. For example, staff are implementing the Climate Implementation Work Plan prepared in late 2021, even in advance of CAP adoption. You will notice some difference, however, between the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change recommendations and CAP strategies. The CAP will be a qualified CAP under the California Environmental Quality Act, allowing streamlined approval of the types of infill projects necessary to achieve our climate goals. This means that actions in the CAP are primarily quantifiable and substantiated by evidence. Staff worked to align the CAP measures with the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change recommendations to the degree possible, but complete alignment was not always possible. Chapter 6 of the CAP provides further explanation regarding the alignment of CAP measures with the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change final report. Sacramento's community-wide emissions are estimated to be approximately 3.5 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. And as you can see from this diagram, approximately 57% of Sacramento's greenhouse gas emissions come from the transportation sector. Meanwhile, the building sector makes up roughly 37% of overall emissions. The remaining are 4% of community emissions generated from waste and about 1% from pumping water and wastewater for the community. Sacramento's 2030 target is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 63% below 1990 levels, exceeding state requirements. And the city's 2045 target is to reduce emissions to net zero or carbon neutrality. As discussed with Council last August, a successful CAP requires a balanced approach to carbon neutrality that moves quickly, centers equity, captures co-benefits, and does not rely on carbon offsets. So the city released the preliminary draft climate action and adaptation plan in July, the draft climate action plan without the adaptation chapter in July 2022, and received over 70 comment letters and emails totaling 348 pages. The city then released a preliminary draft climate change vulnerability assessment and adaptation chapter in October of 2022, and received 10 comments, letters, and emails. And staff prepared responses to comments for both preliminary drafts, which are available on the project website. And these 375 total pages of comments received for the two preliminary drafts informed the public review draft that was released in April in conjunction with the general plan. These comments will receive additional consideration along with new comments received over the last several months as we complete final revisions this fall. So the CAP includes 10 quantified community greenhouse gas reduction measures and 2 supportive measures that are supported by nearly 70 implementing actions. Collectively, these measures are projected to reduce Sacramento's emissions to 63% below 1990 levels by 2030. And this diagram shows the 10 quantified greenhouse gas reduction measures and the percent of total 2030 greenhouse gas emission reductions that are projected to be contributed by each measure. SMUD's zero carbon plan is a primary source of greenhouse gas reductions by 2030 and is also the basis of several other impactful emission reduction measures included in the CAP, including the shift to carbon-free power for both buildings and vehicles. So there are 5 built environment measures included in the CAP. And these include supporting SMUD as it implements its 2030 zero carbon plan, eliminating natural gas in new construction, transitioning natural gas in existing buildings to carbon-free electricity. And as Jennifer noted, we are pleased to note that the draft existing building electrification strategy was released last week for a 3-month public review. Sacramento is uniquely positioned to benefit from electrifying existing buildings. There are significant investments at the local, state, and federal level to support folks making the switch and to give support to those who need it most, with a substantial amount of additional funding slated to come online in early 2024. These rebates and incentives are expected to make electrification cost-effective at time of replacement for many households, with extensive support available, particularly for low and moderate income households. Single-family homes in Sacramento are projected to see immediate on-bill savings from whole home electrification, with the largest greenhouse gas and economic benefit coming from electrifying space and water heating. Notably, there are important co-benefits, including improved indoor and outdoor air quality and associated health benefits. And finally, the last 2 built environment measures are increasing the amount of electricity produced and stored locally and supporting targeted infill growth, which is a supporting measure that is critical to the success of the CAP transportation measures. So there are 3 transportation measures included in the CAP, and the first 2 priorities involve investments in active transportation and transit. These measures would reduce vehicle miles traveled by supporting mode shifts of local traffic from cars to active transportation and transit. The general plan and CAP prioritize active transportation to achieve a 6% mode share by 2030 and 12% by 2045, while targeting an 11% mode share for public transit. The third transportation measure involves supporting zero-emission vehicle adoption by identifying actions to ensure that Sacramento has adequate zero-emission vehicle charging infrastructure. And the CAP targets 28% zero-emission vehicle registration in Sacramento by 2030 and 100% by 2045. To summarize, the CAP measures and actions are projected to reduce greenhouse gas emissions significantly below the 2030 state targets while creating a pathway to net zero in 2045. The remaining gap to the 2045 carbon neutrality target is expected to be closed in the coming years, in part reflecting anticipated changes in technology and the state regulatory framework. Going forward, the CAP will be updated every 5 years in coordination with the general plan update, providing an opportunity to refine our direction and consider opportunities to reduce the time needed to achieve carbon neutrality. So the presentation thus far has been centered on climate action, which is focused on reducing greenhouse gas emissions that drive climate change impacts. I'd like to now shift the focus to climate adaptation, which identifies actions that can build community resilience and reduce the impacts of climate change effects in Sacramento. So the CAP adaptation chapter is supported by a climate change vulnerability assessment, which underpins the adaptation chapter by documenting projected climate change impacts, vulnerable areas and populations, critical facilities at risk, and existing adaptive capacity within Sacramento. The final step in the vulnerability assessment is to identify any gaps in which adaptive capacity could be strengthened to address increasing climate risks. This is the basis for the goals, policies, and actions included in the CAP adaptation chapter. Key projected climate change impacts in Sacramento include temperature increases, changes in precipitation patterns, increased flood risk, and increased regional wildfires with air quality impacts in Sacramento. So the vulnerability assessment lays the groundwork for the adaptation strategy of the CAP by helping to prioritize adaptation goals and actions that most effectively address climate hazard risks in Sacramento. This is done by assessing risks against vulnerabilities. For example, this map shows how certain parts of the city are hotter than the rest of the city, which puts residents and workers in these areas at higher risk of heat-related illnesses. Many of these areas are also state-designated disadvantaged communities, meaning they already suffer from a combination of economic, health, and environmental burdens. The adaptation goals are weighed by their ability to provide as many co-benefits as possible. And understanding the overlap between the risk and vulnerability factors is a key way to specifically identify opportunities to advance climate equity. So the vulnerability assessment drove the identification of 6 primary adaptation priorities and associated goals, each of which is supported by a range of policies and actions. These priorities include city government capacity to implement climate adaptive strategies, extreme heat and urban heat island effect, flooding, air quality impacts of wildfires and heat, preparedness for climate disaster events, and water supply availability and water conservation. And in this year of record-setting heat globally, Sacramento experienced a relatively mild start to our summer. However, Sacramento is projected to continue to see increasing temperatures, with the average number of extreme heat days, warm nights, heat waves, and urban heat island effect expected to increase significantly over the course of the century. These projections led to the formulation of one of the adaptation goals, to create built environments that reduce exposure to extreme heat and mitigate urban heat island effect. This goal is supported by 13 policies and 14 supporting actions, including the following. Heat reduction in the public realm, which would require the use of heat mitigation strategies to reduce temperatures in the public realm, particularly near light rail transit stations and along transit corridors. The development and implementation of the urban forest plan, and this is an effort being led by our colleagues in Public Works Department now, which expects to publish that public review later this year. The urban forest plan will provide key direction to help achieve the CAP measures and adaptation policy of expanding tree canopy to 35% by 2045. Updating street standards to include tree canopy, a process currently underway, is also being led by our Public Works Department. Implementing heat reduction investment in parks, including tree plantings, particularly in under-canopied neighborhoods, as well as drinking fountains, water spray areas, and shade structures. Our colleagues in Youth, Parks, and Community Enrichment Department will refine this direction in the upcoming Parks Plan 2040, which is anticipated to be released for public review this winter. And this slide provides some examples of the direction set by some additional key adaptation policies and actions, just to give a quick overview. So there's a focus on resilience coordination at both the regional and neighborhood level, expanding air quality monitoring and access to air filtration, enhancing groundwater resilience, improving water efficiency and encouraging low water landscapes, and promoting flood resilient building materials and site design techniques. So just a quick overview of some of the key points that we've heard from the community thus far. We've heard a lot of concern regarding extreme heat and urban heat island impacts. We've heard a lot about the importance of expanding the city's tree canopy and urban forest, as well as preserving and maintaining existing trees. Concerns regarding air quality impacts from wildfires, equity concerns and interest in support for disadvantaged communities. And we've received encouragement to act with urgency in our approach to achieving the carbon neutrality target and to identify funding for climate work, including state and federal funding. Interest in support for eliminating parking minimums and establishing parking maximums along transit corridors. Support for increased transit and active transportation mode share and their relationship to land use. And the importance of protecting water supply and groundwater resilience. And so, looking at our next steps, we've been encouraging folks to provide comments on the draft cap and general plan by August 23rd, so that staff will have ample time to consider comments for potential revisions. The Master Environmental Impact Report is slated to be released this Thursday for the state-mandated 45-day public review period. And the comment periods for the MEIR, the Master Environmental Impact Report, General Plan and CAP will officially close on October 10th. All comments will be reviewed and revisions to the documents will be recommended. And we'll return for adoption hearings with the anticipated adoption date of late February 2024. And that concludes the presentation. We appreciate the council's review and discussion and welcome any comments or questions that you might have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have 26 members of the public who want to testify, so we will hear from them, and then we will turn it over to the City Council for a discussion. And is there action to be taken on these items today? This is just presentation, so there's no action. It's more of a mini workshop. Okay. Very good. Let's start.
Okay, I'd like to remind members of the public that if you want to speak on an item, you'll need to turn in your chambers, you'll need to fill out a speaker slip and turn it in to the assistant clerk. If you are on Zoom, please raise your hand. After the first speaker, we will no longer accept speaker slips and the raise hand feature in Zoom will be disabled. You all have 2 minutes each to address the council. And I'm going to call a couple people if you want to go ahead and line up. First will be Alyssa Lee, followed by Katie McCammon, and then Kay Crum.
Hello, City Council. My name is Elisa Lee, and I live in Midtown in District 4. First of all, I urge the city to support the establishment of a Safe Routes to Schools program in both the general plan and the CAP. I myself, my mom was a single parent, and we were a one-car household. There was no option, even once I was legally able to drive, to take myself to school. So access to a car should not be a requirement for kids to be able to get to school, period. I want to address the EVs as one of the main focuses for addressing our transportation emissions. Reliance on this kind of technology is, we know cannot be the answer. There is a simpler way that we can address our emissions, and we must stop building around cars. We must take space away from cars in order to have space for people and for nature. This is how we meet our Vision Zero goals, our climate goals, our urban forest goals, our noise pollution goals, our air quality goals, our neighborhood resilience goals, our urban heat goals, our safety goals, our housing goals, our affordability goals, and perhaps most importantly, fiscal solvency goals, so that the city can afford to do all of these things in this plan that you always claim to not have money to fund. If we have EVs dominating the streets, they will cause more damage to the roads, and right now the transportation budget is eaten up for road repaving and maintenance, money that should be spent toward making walking and biking and mobility safer. I want to say that the majority of transportation emissions in the U.S. is from cars, not from planes or cargo ships or private submarines. 37% of the national GHG emissions come from SUVs, pickup trucks, and minivans. Then 23% for medium and heavy-duty trucks, passenger cars at 21%. The next is commercial aircraft at a mere 7%. And so truly, when it comes to our transportation emissions.
For your comments, please conclude your comments.
It is around reducing cars. Thank you.
Thank you. And so the chamber knows. We're going to use the internal timer just for a couple of speakers until we can resolve things at this podium.
Can we call several people at once? So that
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Katie McCammon, 350 Sacramento. I'm also here to support the safe routes to school. There's no reason children shouldn't be able to have a livable future. I think this is what the CAP plan is all about. So this should be taken seriously. I support all the comments that were sent in by 350 Sacramento. If the council members didn't already see those, it was a lot. It was extensive, as well researched. There is a huge backup for a need for nature-based solutions here. EVs get talked about a lot, and as the young woman just said, that cannot be the solution, and it is not the solution. Space for more cars is never going to be the solution to our problem. We need infill, we need to bring people together, and we will bring people together in healthier communities with nature-based solutions like tree canopy, water retention methods. Retaining groundwater is incredibly important for a flood-prone area like Sacramento. And as a new resident of Sacramento, by the way, I'm really happy to be here, and I want to live in a place that is forward moving. And I think you can bring more people into this place by adopting a lot and more of what's been proposed in the CAP. Your timer's not working, by the way, so I'll just try and keep talking.
We're using the small timer on the top corner.
Oh, you tricked me. Okay.
Sorry.
So the prioritization of public health is huge here, and we need to make sure that we are thinking about people's lives. I feel like that's somehow getting lost in this vision of a techno-focused future, and people's lives are on the line. And the most vulnerable communities. I live in North Sacramento. I have homeless camps all surrounding me everywhere. And those folks are enduring some of the worst consequences of the heat we've seen. And we can't let people suffer like we have in the past. We need to be more progressive. We need to represent what this country can be. And I believe in what Sacramento is doing and what it can do. And I again, support a lot of what's in the CAP, and I also support the strong recommendations that have been offered by the knowledgeable base that 350 Sacramento volunteers completely on their own time have offered. And we also need to make sure that these aren't just recommendations. We need to solidify this. We need to create policy. We need to create law and regulation that protects children, that protects people living into the future. We need to make a livable future, and that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kay Crum, followed by Ivan Cabrera, Billy Hernandez, and Sonia Hendren.
Hi, I'm Kay Crum. I'm a resident of District 6 and a member of Strong Sacktown. Thank you to the city and to Vic for working on the CAP. So the CAP acknowledges that 57% of our greenhouse gas emissions are from transportation and states that active transportation is priority number one for rethinking how we move in the city, which is great. But the section's goals and measurements are pretty vague, and it's classified as high cost because we haven't invested in active transportation infrastructure in the past. So we need specific goals, measurements, and funding for active transportation, and need more than 7% mode share. Zero-emission vehicles are defined as lowest priority, and their infrastructure is erroneously categorized as low cost, which means that it's most likely to be funded because it only focuses on charging infrastructure. And that sounds like bad math to me. It's the same approach that's allowed our roads to fall into the sad state that they're in now. ZEV costs don't include creating and maintaining car infrastructure, which is invested in heavily already, nor additional costs to the surfacings of roads because the 4,000+ pound vehicles require road maintenance a staggering 2.5 times more often. And this doesn't account for the higher cost pedestrian and cyclists killed by increasingly heavier cars. So currently, active transportation has no city funding. All walking and rolling and biking infrastructure money comes from grants or developers, which explains the confusing bike lanes on 21st. But look at the money. Our current priorities are clear. Millions on road maintenance, thousands on parking structures, and hey, we even have $328,000 in the budget for golf. Safe bike and pedestrian paths are too expensive, but golf courses are a publicly funded service. So let's make Sacramento a strong town, stop the growth Ponzi scheme, invest in active transportation over zero-emission vehicles. We can't continue We can't afford the continued taxpayer subsidies for personal car ownership. Thank you.
Ivan Cabrera, followed by Billy Hernandez.
I've been left.
I'm sorry?
I've been left.
Oh, okay. Are you Billy? Great.
Hi, I'm Billy T. Hernandez. I'm with 350 SAC. I'm a member of District 8. Hi, Mai. And I'm going to be a computer science high school teacher at Kennedy, my old high school. I live in Meadowview, obviously, and I've been having to try and figure out how I'm going to get there. I don't drive. So it's between biking and taking the bus. I want to bike, it would be a lot faster, but the Florin Freeport intersection is scary. I am a young adult male who's not risk adverse, and it's still scary. So like a kid going through there, you know, on their way to school, like that's the school I went to. That was my way to school. It's not safe. So I'm probably going to be taking the bus, which is going to take a lot longer, but I have to, you know, protect my safety. There's like so many lanes there for cars, and at the intersection there is not even a bike lane. I'm in there with the right turning cars, and I'm like, anyone come in? It's scary. And yeah, the best time to add in bike lanes, improve the bike infrastructure is when we redo the roads, obviously. That's the financially makes sense. Meadowview Road was just redone, and we got like this much improvement in the bike lane. It's still just a painted lane. It's still not safe. I still don't feel comfortable. There's a lot of work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sonia Hendren, followed by Troy Slinky, Jeremiah Robles, and Catherine Knepig.
Oh, are we able to use this?
Yes, we'll have the overhead camera, please. You can start.
First, thank you to Council Members Valenzuela and Maple for what you did for SEIU last week. On topic, the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change recommendations for active transportation and public and shared transit should be set as goals in the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. Transportation is responsible for 57% of the greenhouse gas emissions in Sacramento. We should be focusing on this largest source. Active and public transportation is essential not only for our climate change goals, but for making Sacramento livable right now. Pedestrian deaths are at a 40-year high in the United States. In May, Chuck Carlson was killed by a driver while biking on the Sac State campus, which should be a very safe place. Beloved ride leader and ride founder, Sherry Martinez, was intentionally hit with a truck. Not an accident. The driver came back around to target her. This was just a week and a half ago. Last Thursday, a cyclist was killed on Rail Yards Boulevard. My son is starting at Miwok Middle School, formerly Sutter Middle, at the end of the month. We practiced routes, and the traffic leading to the school makes me, an adult, uncomfortable. And this is what we expect 12 and 13-year-olds to navigate twice daily. His former school was along T Street, one of our most bikeable areas, short of a separated path, yet there were usually only a few bikes on the rack. This shows that people are uncomfortable using even our best roads. Our roads are so inhospitable that people are afraid to use them without a car. This needs to change. The Mayor's Commission for Climate Change transportation recommendations are necessary not only for our long-term climate change goals, but for making Sacramento livable and accessible for everyone right now in the present.
Thank you for your comments. Troy, followed by Jeremiah Robles, Catherine, and Arlette Hoddle.
Hello, my name is Troy, and I'm in District 4. I just want to say that car dependency, suburban sprawl, and policies that reinforce the status quo of moto normativity stand in the way of solving almost every issue outlined in both the general plan and the climate action plan. The central theme of both documents should be to disincentivize car ownership and incentivize alternatives. I trust that I don't need to restate that global warming is an emergency and that cars seriously get in the way of addressing it. And single occupancy vehicles represent the greatest source of greenhouse gas emissions. This is seriously what the CAP should be highlighting first and foremost, but that's not even where the problems end. Vehicles are the primary source of both noise and air pollution, disproportionately impacting people who live near freeways and arterial roads, an equity issue. In terms of safety, every 6.5 days in Sacramento County, somebody walking or cycling is struck and killed by a car. This is absolutely not an environment conducive for children to be able to walk to school safely. Surfaces for parking cars and moving cars occupies the majority of public space, which gets in the way of building a healthy tree canopy. From the city's perspective, the road and maintenance backlog are hundreds of years long, and at the rate that they keep growing and the rate that we keep building more sprawl, we're never set to catch up. Every new low-density suburb that gets built puts the city deeper into debt and creates new maintenance liabilities that are guaranteed to be financially insolvent. In terms of personal finances, car dependency is closely tied to housing unaffordability and housing instability, especially considering the fact that the average cost of car ownership in California now is over $600 a month. For the sake of equity, for the sake of public safety, for the sake of municipal finances, the sake of personal finances, and for the sake of our planet, the central theme of both documents must be to reduce VMTs by disincentivizing car ownership and incentivizing alternatives. We desperately need to reduce our car ownership. EVs are a distraction, by the way.
Jeremiah, followed by Catherine, Arlette Hoddle, and Rick Codina. Okay, no Jeremiah. Catherine? Yes, Jeremiah Rule.
My name is Jeremiah Rohr. I represent SABA, the Sacramento Area Bicycle Advocates today. SABA believes in human-scaled transportation infrastructures for peds, bicycles, scooters, skateboards, and the like. It is the single most effective and efficient means to carbon neutrality available to you today. This is the lowest hanging fruit for fighting climate change. Sacramento has a unique environment and climate to join the growing number of cities throughout the world rejecting the automobile culture and embracing human-scaled transportation and public transit. We need to double down on the work that we're doing in our streets today. Protected bike lanes downtown should be the example for all neighborhoods throughout all of the city. There's not a single problem that you guys face that we face where the answer is more cars. As a matter of fact, fewer cars is actually the answer to many of the issues that we are trying to address in carbon neutrality today. We need a paradigm shift in how we live our lives. Thank you.
Catherine Canepa. Catherine. And followed by Arlette Hodel, Rick Codina, and Rosie Jacob.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Canepa. I'm a resident of D4 and also here representing Civic Thread today. I want to uplift a couple of our priorities for the general plan and the CAP. So first, we want to advocate for a higher active transportation mode share target of 40% by 2040 in the CAP, consistent with the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change report. The CAP should include policies such as speed reduction, improved road design standards with complete streets requirements, tree canopy enhancement and maintenance, and comprehensive Vision Zero implementation, especially in environmental justice neighborhoods. We have to center people rather than cars in all of our neighborhoods. We also want to uplift how important strong transit supportive policies is going to be. That's going to be critical to reach the CAP's transit mode share goals. We need policies that are going to support high-density mixed-use development along key transit corridors and within a 1/4 mile and a 1/2 mile of transit stations. We call for incredibly strong collaboration with Sacramento Regional Transit to get this done. Finally, we need to prioritize tree canopy as critical infrastructure, especially in our EJ neighborhoods. It's crucial to combat urban heat island effects and promote active transportation. We're seeing more and more extreme climate impacts every year. Shade is a non-negotiable if we want to get people out of cars. I also want to uplift that mode share is not going to shift unless people feel safe on Sacramento streets. We know that Black and brown communities are less safe on public streets, and one of the key reasons is racial bias in policing. So as a component of the city's active transportation strategy, we urge the council to commit to ending pretextual traffic stops, which disproportionately impact people of color. Infrastructure can accomplish a lot, but personal safety is going to underscore every single transportation decision that someone makes. So we thank you, city staff, for the foundational work that you've done to date. Yeah, we really appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Your comments, Arlette Hodel.
Arlette Hodel, Active Transportation Commissioner, resident of North Atomas, District 1, and an avid cyclist. Raging wildfires in Maui, Washington State, and elsewhere, Hurricane Hillary wreaking havoc this past week, the climate crisis has arrived. It's time to take bold and immediate action. Where can we get the biggest benefit for the least amount of money? Invest in active transportation. Significantly increase this budget. There are shovel-ready projects available which would connect trails and communities and improve road crossings. There are projects in development which could be accelerated for completion. According to the Bicycle Master Plan, when people were asked, what type of bicycle rider are you? 60% said they were interested but concerned. They would ride more if it was safer with less traffic and slower speeds. If you build it, they're going to ride and walk it. Engage with communities. Find out what they need. I agree with Civic Thread. Safe routes to school should also be a priority. But I encourage you to go beyond that and give us all safe, active transportation routes to school, to the grocery store, to the library, to local restaurants, wherever we want to go. We should have this right to safely walk, bike, or roll wherever we need and want to go. These methods of mobility should be prioritized as we begin to seriously address our climate crisis. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Rick Codina, followed by Rosie Jakob and Justine Kanzler, and then Alina Wong.
Good evening. My name is Rick Codina, and I'm in Councilmember Maples District. First off, I'd like to thank the staff here for a really impressive climate action and adaptation plan. It's forward lots of good ideas, and it includes a powerful, impressive proposal that will require heat pump replacement upon burnout of gas heating appliances. It needs a start date, but it's a great proposal, and it was one that we had recommended when I was with the Mayor's Climate Commission on the Built Environment Task Force. I would like, though, tonight to address something that hasn't been mentioned so far, which is Measure E4. And this is a group of solar plus storage measures, which should, I believe, be set in motion at once if they're to have any value at all in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That's because, as we know, SMUD plans, it pledges to achieve carbon zero in 2030. So after 2030, any solar projects will have no real value in greenhouse gas savings, although, of course, they're still valuable in reducing electricity. So that means that the city, if they're to support these measures for solar and storage, they have to get moving right away. I have some ideas for that. I think that they need to set timelines for prioritized implementation. They need to begin surveying suitable city facilities and land for photovoltaic and battery storage installations. They need to evaluate adding batteries to the city's already installed almost 5 megawatts cumulative of solar storage in city facilities, and then to evaluate participating in SMUD's new My Optimizer program for batteries. And they need to begin negotiations with SMUD for a major community solar project, 1 to 3 megawatts. There's a lot that will be necessary, including power purchase agreements and land evaluations. So
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rosie, followed by Justine.
My name's Rosie Yakub. I am a volunteer with 350 Sacramento, and I'm in District 7. So, hi, Rick. So I want to just say thanks to staff for bringing the CAP, which is well-written, and we look forward to some of these changes. I also want to thank all the previous speakers for addressing the need to change transportation, because it's the biggest it's the biggest problem. But I'm actually going to talk about building electrification. First, I'm actually going to mention something that isn't building electrification, but we have a new building electrification ordinance already to impact our new buildings. Something that's missing from what we could do with new buildings is also to address embodied carbon. Embodied carbon means looking at the materials that are put into buildings and selecting materials that are not as emitting, like less cement, for example. This is already something that the city of Los Angeles is looking at, and it is something that they are considering in Title 24. So it's something that I feel like the city should address. In terms of some of the benefits that were mentioned, health benefits for the existing building electrification ordinance, you have to address stoves to get those health benefits, and the policy doesn't. So how do we do that? We do that with education. And where do we get that education? We use some of our city's existing channels, like the rental inspection program, the Department of Utilities, permitting. We should upgrade our permitting. That should be a city priority if we want this to succeed. And I've got more, but I've written it down and I'm out of time. So
Thank you for your comments. Justine Kanzler, followed by Alina Wong, Taylin Wong, and Kevin Wong.
Hello, my name is Justine Kanzler, and I live in District 4 in East Sacramento. I'm here as well as a volunteer for 350 Sacramento to advocate for adoption of strong, safe routes to school policies. Growing up here, I was not surprised to learn that Sacramento had the highest number of speed-related traffic fatalities in California, according to the city's Vision Zero School Safety Study. When I was attending the freshman class of 2015 at West Campus High School, time seemed to stop on the day that we lost 2 students who had been hit while backing out their car the night before. I did not know either of the 2 personally, but I could feel their loss within the school walls that day. Everyone simply drifted from class to class, and all of the teachers seemed to have a mutual agreement to skip lessons that day. West Campus is a small school, a tight-knit community that felt a serious blow losing those 2 students. I cannot imagine the tragedy of losing students on their way to school. A family friend had been hit while on his bike a few years ago. Luckily, he got out of it with just a few scratches, but even once for something like that to happen is too much. Safe routes to school will not only make commuting safer for students while they're traveling, but will also contribute to students' long-term health. People need to move and they need to breathe, and these policies aid both of those things. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate any support you can provide to make walking and biking safer and easier in Sacramento neighborhoods through the Climate Action Plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Alina Wong, followed by Taylin.
Almost 4 years ago, on October 22nd, 2019, I was riding my bike to Cal Middle when I was hit by an SUV driven by a 17-year-old boy going to McClatchy High School. I broke 3 teeth, my jaw, skull, femur, humerus, and fractured my tibia. I spent 21 days recovering in the UC Davis Medical Facility, but still it took months until I could perform well physically, and I still suffer from recurring physical trauma. According to local residents of this area, this is not an uncommon occurrence. The official name for the light at the Sutterville-Meade intersection is solar-powered rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which is a very long and unnecessary way to say that they don't actually work. These lights are attached to poles that come straight out of the sidewalk, so drivers cannot see them without looking away from the road. My parents have always allowed me to be fairly independent. I've been able to get myself to school without any assistance since 4th grade. Though this independence was the reason I was biking, it was not the reason I got hit.
With roads as dangerous as the ones in Sacramento, children are not safe traveling to school, whether on foot, bike, or even car. By investing in the infrastructure of both the Centerville-Meade intersection and other areas and school routes, we can create a safer environment for children traveling to and from school. This will help protect children like me, teenagers learning to drive, one still new to their license, like the boy who hit me, and even adults who have been driving for years. This will help protect children not only from physical trauma, but also the mental trauma of hitting a 12-year-old girl. Thank you.
Caitlin Wong, followed by Kevin Wong, and then Caesar Aguirre.
That's my kid. A few years ago, I was biking with my then kindergartner when the bike lane abruptly disappeared mid-block. My 5-year-old knew to bike onto the sidewalk, but suddenly he was on the ground. His handlebar had clipped a metal pole that had been placed in the sidewalk to prevent drivers from driving onto the sidewalk to avoid the speed hump. That event got me thinking. How did we get to the point that we have to depend on metal poles to prevent drivers from driving onto the sidewalk to save a few seconds? I submit that we created that dangerous, entitled mentality through decades of infrastructure decision that prioritized the convenience of people in cars over the convenience, safety, and lives of everyone else. The regularity with which I have to bike into traffic to avoid parked cars or piles of leaves waiting to be picked up by the claw shows me that as a city, we have decided that car storage and leaf removal is more important than my life. And that is unacceptable. It's time for a dramatic paradigm shift, not Band-Aids like sidewalk poles. It's time to prioritize the safety and freedom of children, of seniors, of people who are differently abled, of people living in poverty, and people who just enjoy fresh air over the convenience of people in cars. It is time to invest in the livability of our communities rather than the speed with which cars can pass through them. Will drivers complain? Will they be angry? Of course they will. It's not hard to make drivers angry. I did it by stopping at a red light a few weeks ago. Council members, you are strong. You can handle their whining and angry responses. If my 4 children can handle the angry honks of drivers because they have the audacity to exist on bicycles in this city, then you can handle the displeasure of drivers who will be annoyed that you didn't prioritize electric vehicles over active transportation.
Thank you for your comment. Kevin Wong, followed by Cesar Aguirre, Dana Miranda, and Brandon Sanchez.
Last month, as I was biking through downtown to pick up my son from a summer camp, a driver yelled at me as he passed. This was not an isolated incident. This happens on a regular basis to myself, my family, and other cyclists in our city. As one who chooses to commute by bicycle rather than car, I have a fair bit of experience on the streets of Sacramento as a cyclist. Having said that, I also have a fair bit of experience on the streets as a driver, and I'm not immune to the fact that many cyclists break basic traffic safety rules by doing things like cutting across streets or running red lights. This is not an ideal situation. Current sentiments breed animosity between drivers and cyclists, which is bound to become even worse as each encroach on the other's territory. I recognize the city's ongoing efforts to improve the traffic safety infrastructure, but wonder what can be done to improve the education of the public regarding the coexistence of bicycles and cars. Perhaps billboards or other ads could be used, similar to past campaigns about drunk driving or watching for motorcycles. Simple messages like cyclists can use a full lane and bicycles should obey all traffic laws could go a long way to educating the public. A lack of education looks like patrons at the local hair salon complaining about the recent installation of protected bike lanes on 21st Street because they, quote, can't figure out how it's supposed to work. True story. I look forward to the time when Sacramento has a vast network of interconnected bike paths and roads that promote safety for both bicycles and cars. Alongside these efforts should be equally important education campaigns to help all citizens coexist in our great city. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Dana Miranda, followed by Brandon Sanchez and Jeffrey Tegral.
Is it one?
They'll bend down.
Okay.
There you go.
Sorry. 411 problem. Sorry. All right. Does it start when I just start talking? Okay, it started. Cool. So good evening. I'm a young adult, 23 years old. I am a queer Filipino American. I'm a daughter of Filipino immigrants. I am a younger sister, a friend, a student of life, a feminist activist, a storyteller, and a new community member to Sacramento, where I now work for Civic Thread as a project assistant. I currently reside on Miwok and Plains Miwok land, and I have been a longtime resident in the Central Valley, where Yakult land is. I begin my comment today like this because before you hear my name, you need to know that my name comes with a story. My name is Dana Ica Miranda, and I go by Ica, they, them pronouns. I am breathing testimony of my history, and I'm here to talk about the historical and cultural resources element in the general plan today. So I heard when we started this meeting today, it was really interesting because we talked about 1920 for women's equality, and that's really, let's talk about that, okay? So it's women's suffrage, and that was said very generally, and yet that didn't include all women. It wasn't until, and this may surprise you, 1965, when Black women were finally able to vote. And there are people and residents in Sacramento who have lived during a time where they could not vote. They weren't even humanized. And now, when we talk about a general plan and broad language, we see that it has historically failed to humanize and acknowledge people of different identities, abilities, histories, and lived experiences. And so when we talk about preservation, it's not just a building. It's also about people. History is alive, and we are products of them. And so it's not just a celebration. There's a difference between, I'm going to talk about myself real quick, but there is a difference between Filipino representation and Filipinos who represent. And I just want y'all to think about that, and that there needs to be an intersectional framework in this plan.
Thank you for your comments. Brandon Sanchez, followed by Jeffrey Tagrell, Armand Alexander, and Jordan Grimaldi.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Sanchez. I am 15 years old. I live in South Sacramento, and I attend West Campus High School. I am here today to ask the City of Sacramento to adopt strong, safe routes to school policies and its general and climate action and adaptation plan to help make the community a safer and more comfortable place to walk, bike, and roll. Currently, it is difficult for me to walk to school because of high-speed traffic, poor driving, like people running red lights, and speeding. I feel that the citywide safe routes to school programs will help improve safety and comfort of walking, biking, and rolling for myself and my friends and my neighbors. As transportation is the largest contributing sector to greenhouse gases emissions in Sacramento, making walking and biking safer and easier to get to school also has the potential to reduce millions of pounds of carbon. For me, walking and biking is important because it helps reduce my own carbon footprint. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate any support that you can provide to making walking and biking safer and easier in the South Sacramento neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Jeffrey Tagrell, Armand Alexander, followed by Jordan Grimaldi and Michael Hutchnick.
Armand Alexander, I'm back. I'm in District 4, and I have noticed, I like the idea of what they're doing, and that agenda that they're doing. And I've noticed walking and going to Safeway, just leaving from my house and going to Safeway to go shopping, cars do not want to stop at all. They do. In those crosswalks, I have the right of way, and they do not want to stop. So I think this is very important to do, to implement the safety and stuff for people to get around, because I live in Midtown and I work in Midtown. So it's easy for me to maneuver around and walk and go to the Safeway and go home and different things like that. But I've noticed that the cars do not want to stop here downtown. So thank you for implementing that, if you guys can look into that. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you for your comments. Jordan Grimaldi, followed by Michael Hutchnick and MVW.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm back, and I'm clearly not alone this time. My name is Jordan Grimaldi, and I'm the Safe Routes to Schools Director at Civic Thread. I attended the last council meeting to advocate for strong citywide Safe Routes to School policies and programs for adoption into the general plan and CAP, a recommendation that is consistent with the Active Transportation Commission's 2023 recommendations to council. I would like to use my time today to highlight examples from jurisdictions who effectively model systems-level Safe Routes to School plans and policies. Our neighbors at the City of Rancho Cordova partnered with Civic Thread and Alta Planning to engage over 20 school sites and stakeholders to develop and execute a Safe Routes to School action plan in 2017, made possible by funding from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration via the California Office of Traffic Safety. Marin County, in partnership with the Transportation Authority of Marin, piloted a Safe Routes to School program in 2002 that became fully adopted as a county-wide program in 2003 through a voter-approved 20-year half-cent transportation sales tax and remains operational in over 55 schools today. Allocated funding is also used to support crossing guard programs and Safe Routes to School infrastructure improvements. As a result of the programs, more than half of Marin County students walk, bike, carpool, or take a bus to school. Guided by a stakeholder advisory committee, the City of Portland has also been running Safe Routes to School programs in partnership with the Portland Bureau of Transportation since 2001. Made possible by a combination of state grants, the program now provides some level of service for more than 100 schools across 5 school districts within Portland city limits. In 2018, they executed a 5-year strategic plan with a core focus on program sustainability strategies. Please refer to the comment letter I submitted on behalf of Civic Thread for in-depth policy recommendations to join the growing number of municipalities across the country in adopting strong Safe Routes to School plans and policies. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Michael Hutchnick, followed by MVW and Sunrise. Michael?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Hutnick. I'm an avid cyclist and a father, and I'd like to start off by saying thank you to city staff for all the effort they put into putting together a pretty bold, forward-looking plan. But the audience in the room that's spoken so far, I would like to just put my stamp of approval on everything that's been said so far very eloquently and passionately. And so I'll perhaps reiterate some of those things, but also bring up some new points. The plan for infill focus, I support it fully. I just want to make sure that it's applied across the board as far as following transit corridors, irrespective of the wealth of the neighborhood. So let's go ahead and put denser housing throughout the city. I'd also like to mention that one of those graphs that talks about the city's sources of carbon emissions, there was no mention of the food supply, and I would like the city to consider potentially looking at supporting efforts to advocate a plant-based diet, as if you look into the numbers, the greenhouse gas emissions, especially methane, and water use and pollution are incredibly serious issues in the realm of food. So the share of active transportation and transit needs to be a lot higher on our aspirational plan here. It does need to be attainable, but that is something that can be done through relatively small investments when we're looking at the other types of things that are on the list of goals that of policies that are needing to be pursued. Also, one of the points about local electricity generation, I would like to point out as well that there is a conflict between rooftop solar and trees. Trees win in my book, but not in courts. Rooftop solar tends to. So solar farms outside of the city, I would highly recommend pursuing that. And then as far as the ZEBs for the hydrogen would be good to check out for ZEBs rather than battery powered for the fleet.
Your comments, your time is complete. MVW, followed by Sunrise, then Shira Lane, and the last speaker in chambers is Cesar Aguirre. Do you need the document camera?
Yes.
You can go ahead and start.
From the environment to police brutality to the inhumane housing dilemma, white supremacy is a killer in our city, our communities, our world. Our Sacramento City Council continues to push the ball around and not acknowledge the giant white hood in the room. Climate change is environmental racism. What is environmental racism? It is the intentional directives and policies leading to the polluting and maintaining of waste facilities in communities primarily populated by Blacks, Latinos, Indigenous people, Asians, Pacific Islanders, migrant farm workers, and low-income workers. Our vulnerable, unhoused neighbors, forced outside by criminalization policies, are at the forefront of the climate crisis. Study after study has shown that poor Black and brown communities are disproportionately exposed to fumes, toxic dust, ash, soot, and other pollutants from such hazardous facilities. As a result, our communities face increased risk of health problems like cancer and respiratory issues. More expensive electric vehicles and fake green golf courses aren't going to help anyone. In LA and Sacramento County, Blacks are 2 times more likely to develop asthma. It is usually much hotter in South Sacramento than in East Sacramento. I wonder the fuck why. Nationwide, Black households with income between $60,000 live in neighborhoods that are more polluted than those of very poor white households with income less than $10,000. And lastly, a couple books, because reading is what's essential. So a really good book is As Long as Grass Grows, The Indigenous Fight for Environmental Justice, From Colonization to Standing Rock. Another book is A Terrible Thing to Waste, Environmental Racism and Its Assault on the American Mind. The Intersectional Environmentalist, How to Dismantle Systems of Oppression to Protect People and Planet. And lastly, Climate Change is Racist, Race, Privilege, and the Struggle for Climate Justice. Y'all should read them.
Your time is complete. Thank you for your comments. Sunrise, followed by Shira, and then Cesar.
Hi, City Council. I will, skip kind of reiterating all of the points made by Strong Towns, 350 Sacramento, Civic Thread, Sacramento Bicycle Advocates. I think all great points. I think we've heard a lot about what can be done. I think the CAP, thanks to the work of the Jennifers, Matt, Vic, and all the city staff, has a lot good in it. But one thing that Vic mentioned in the presentation is that none of this happens without budget. This needs to really be a budget conversation. I'm really excited about this idea of co-benefits and getting these things funded. One that comes to mind is this idea of moving Sacramento forward and creating green jobs. Really excited for this council to really seriously consider that proposal. And I think I'll kind of leave it at that. This idea of infill development and growth, housing, this idea of preserving the places that we live is, as we talk about this concept of climate change, is a Herculean task. It's something that's kind of society changing, and it needs to take that level of investment, that level of dedication, of urgency, as was mentioned in the 2019 Climate Emergency Resolution by this council. And I implore you to take that really seriously. Thank you.
Shira Lane, followed by Cesar.
Hi, my name is Shira Lane. I'm with Atrium 916. We're a creative innovation center for sustainability located in District 4, and I live in District 6. I wanted to say, normally you hear me talk about the creative industry, the creative sector, but the Atrium is an intersection of the creative industries, environmentalism, and economic development. I'm here to talk about single-use plastic. That's something that was not mentioned in the plan. Single-use plastic is most commonly used, has been shown to release greenhouse gases, ethylene and methane as they decompose, and that traps the atmospheric heat 25 more times than CO2. And in Old Sacramento, we actually don't have any public-facing recycling receptacles, so everything just gets trashed, the trash overflows, and it flows into the river. And this is seriously contaminating our river, everything, so I'd love to look at how we can do something about that. And also, I'd like to help restaurants figure out a way that we remove single-use plastics from foodware and work with the restaurants on that, so that way it actually helps them with their bottom line. Creative economy meeting. I would love to connect. I don't think you guys did an event with the creative sector here in Sacramento, so I would love to connect and do a creative economy meeting so you can get some ideas from the creative sector. They have lots of ideas. Another idea would be that thirsty concrete. Thirsty concrete's an amazing thing that absorbs water into concrete, and that way we can refill our aquifers. There's some really awesome technology on that. And a reuse facility. So we have a lot of companies, kind of like the soccer company, FC Soccer. Sorry, I'm terrible at sports. But they came to me, they accidentally printed 10,000 linears with the wrong name and wanted to figure out what to do. So if we had a reuse facility, we could let artists use those materials and create awesome stuff. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Cesar Aguirre.
Hi, Council. My name is Cesar Aguirre. I am here with Civic Thread, SABA, 350 SAC. I just want to echo and uplift all of these amazing talking points that folks in the community here are bringing to you. I think that y'all are very well supplied with plenty of ammunition to make the changes that need addressing. I think that the elephant in the room here is transportation, specifically cars. We talk about wanting to make space for people, for housing, for trees. None of those things are hurting us. Cars definitely are. And I want to give you a little bit of my story as someone born and raised in Sacramento, being 3 years old and being outside of my grandma's house on 16th and E, and having, I think that you all know about the traffic on 15th and 16th, right? These are thoroughfares. These are 3 lanes of one-way traffic. Not surprisingly, when those cars come through these residential streets, bad things happen. I was struck by a car at 3 years old outside of my grandma's house. I was struck by a car at 27 years old on my bicycle, completely in the bike lane, completely got totaled on Fruit Ridge and 24th on my way to the public transit, which I think I was coming from I-5. I had to ride at least 3 miles down that road, maybe 4 miles, just to get to the nearest transit line. So we have a deficiency in our public transit. We have a deficiency in our walkability, and we have just so much space ceded to these cars that are expensive for people at the personal level. They're expensive at the government level. They're expensive in terms of what is a limited resource, which is our land. So please don't be afraid to be bold, to be courageous, to go back to what we did before. Like, we didn't always rely on these cars. So please envision a future where we're addressing our climate needs and the needs of our of your constituency.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete.
Thank you. Transportation. Thank you.
5 speakers in the Zoom. Leroy Finicum, please unmute. Leroy Finicum, please go ahead.
Yes, hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead and make your comments.
Yes, hold on 1 second. Just getting it up. Hold on.
We can hear you. You can go ahead and make your
I wanted
comments.
to say, oh, damn it. Hold on, sorry. The mayor's an anti-white Jew. White Lives Matter, 1488.
Okay, cut him off, and cut him off now. Cut him off. We're not having hatred and bigotry of any kind in these chambers, period.
Our next speaker is Stephen Sander. Mr. Sander, please unmute.
Hi, Council. I completely reject that BS the last person said. I'm a member of the city's EJ Collaborative Governance Committee and the EJ Working Group. 3 issues with the cap. It isn't equity-centered, it's way too light on implementation, and it isn't ambitious enough. The science tells us 2045 is way too late. First, on equity, city staff have presented the cap to the EJCGC several times now, and each time we have expressed serious concerns regarding their conceptualization of equity as a set of guardrails rather than a framework to operationalize around. Each time staff commit to making those changes, but then months later come back and it's like nothing happened. On page 49, it says the city will have equity protections in place to avoid unintended impacts. This is the opposite of putting equity at the forefront. Second, it's extremely light on implementation details everywhere. Page 74 sums up this thinking. It says, by developing implementation procedures, the city will aim to avoid causing further harm to underserved communities. Here's this guardrail thinking yet again. And basically what they're saying is trust us to come up with these implementation procedures later on. Addressing structural inequity involves actively unburdening communities. It's about repairing the structural inequities. Third, the cap doesn't meet the moment. We will exceed the safe upper limit for global average temperature by 2027, if not sooner. The measures don't even get us to net zero by 2045, let alone by 2030, prescribed by the city and county climate emergency declarations. Find the money for this now. The county is about to spend $1 billion incarcerating people, and all we can come up with is funding for new staff. Let's let our budget reflect our values, and I value
Thank
a
you for
livable.
your comments. Lori Lippman. Then you.
Hi, I'm very happy to see the city taking the climate crisis seriously with this climate action and adaptation plan. However, a plan is nothing without the support of decision makers, you, and the funding necessary to implement its actions. So far, the City Council has not acted on climate with any sense of urgency. Yes, the word urgency is used again and again, but the budget tells the real story that you don't really see this as an emergency. To make the cap viable, we need two main things. The first is funding for all the climate actions listed in this document. The cap is worthless without funding. Second, we need more staff, at least 6 more positions to plan and implement the actions in this document, which brings us right back to funding. Let's be absolutely clear. The money for climate action exists. It's simply being spent on other things, with a huge share going to the police and carceral system. There's always enough money for the things you prioritize, and it's not been action on climate. Right now, you have an opportunity to make a difference, but only those actions planned before 2030 actually count. After that, the climate will be largely out of human control. So you have about 6.5 years to do everything that can be done to mitigate climate change. Please read the many thoughtful and knowledgeable comments made by your constituents who have spent many hundreds of unpaid hours studying the cap and then actually make the improvements to the document we asked for. All council decisions should be made through the lens of climate justice. I will add the cap needs to be much more ambitious. Currently, the cap's biggest effort to cut emissions is piggybacking on SMUD's very ambitious zero carbon plan. The city needs its own ambitious stretch goals to show that you're serious about the climate emergency.
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Keon Bliss, please unmute.
While this action plan or outline seemed like a good start, it's excessively wordy and overly jargonistic to make it inaccessible for a large number of the community that would like to be able to participate and help to adapt our city and our communities to climate change. I also noticed several glaring deficiencies that prevent it from serving as publicly available strategy for climate adaptation. One that several people have mentioned already, the lack of tangible funding or financing options to meaningfully fund these initiatives. Very few details or milestones that provide clear implementation targets, as well as modest to minimal accountability measures that actually disrupt the fossil fuel-centric status quo, as well as limited institutionalization of climate action within the city's processes or practices. As I agree with many of the previous speakers, especially who spoke to the environmental racism and other inequities that exist from climate mitigation strategies and whatnot. We need to prioritize expanding the tree canopy to cover long disenfranchised Black and brown neighborhoods to the south and north of the city, but planting trees in disadvantaged neighborhoods without helping them to maintain and water is merely a performative gesture meant to deflect any claims of environmental racism, which you may struggle against. We also need to invest in active transportation. We are expanding the highway system right now, which is only going to lead to even more cars on the road, but really don't seem any investment, any serious, meaningful investment into the public transportation infrastructure or expanding bike lanes or whatnot, especially within the areas that many people have already mentioned. Sacramento, 2030 is 6 years away. 6 years and 4 months away, while climate change is only accelerating at an exponential pace. Like the impact of a penny that's dropped from a skyscraper, the impact of climate change is only getting bigger with every passing year, month, day, hour, and minute. So if anyone in this room thinks—
Your time is complete. Thank you for your comments. PJ, please unmute.
Yeah, it is undemocratic for you to combine items in an attempt to limit public comment. Your contempt for us is noted, Daryl. Did you see the cost that exists to meet the requirements of the heavy-duty vehicle electrification? Where do you intend to take that money from? I know some departments who have over 100 positions worth of salaries going unspent. Maybe from there? Nah, you'll probably just take it from vital community investment, knowing you, Daryl. Prioritize investments in active transportation and transit. Focusing on transit is equity. Focusing on transit is pushing back against racism, and it's an immediate solution. Helping those who have been historically harmed by our government, those who have no vehicles, those who have vehicles which aren't dependable, those who have been pushed to the borders of our city due to excessive housing prices, and those who have to choose between rent, food, and gas or car repairs. More transit at the city and county scale are necessary. We need a city investment and for the city to work with the county to increase the number of transit routes, shorten the wait time between buses for every line, minimize the transit pass cost. All of these would serve to increase the ubiquity and usage of transit in our city. This is the only way to get vehicle miles traveled down significantly given our suburban sprawl layout, which makes transit more difficult and increases the unnecessary amount of vehicle miles traveled. We need transit, Daryl. We also need to deprioritize vehicles in all of our city design. Too much of our land usage is centered on personal vehicles. Vehicles which frequently only have one passenger, use up far more fossil fuels than the comparable transit options, and take up vital space in our downtown core, which could be developed by our city with our city engineers and our city's resources into more dense, affordable housing for a variety of income types. We need less vehicle mile travel, Daryl. You should plant more trees in areas of the city which were historically disenfranchised via redlining and other contemptuous actions taken by the area's realtors in the 40s, 50s, and beyond. These areas suffer from not enough trees, resulting in less shade, resulting in more electricity usage, more costs for them, and continuing the generational harm done by this government. We need a canopy, Daryl. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ.
Also need more public comment time.
That concludes our public comment.
Oh, okay. Thank you to all the callers, and especially all the young people who come in to not only participate but help lead your democracy. I'm glad you're okay, and that you obviously have turned your almost tragedy into a real commitment for change, and that matters. And don't ever give that up, because you can make change, all of you. Thank you. Let me start with Vice Mayor Guerra.
Thank you, Mayor, and I too would like to, commend our youth and our young person who took a lot of courage to come up here and talk about that personal experience and the demand and the need for this type of change. First, let me thank. First start off with you, Mayor, and the Climate Commission. I mean, we wouldn't be here without that effort, without that stakeholder group process that took a lot of time in 2020 to get that, and to thank our staff for the preparation of the climate action plan that we have now before us, the CAP. And I take great pride in knowing that I made that motion to get us where we are today, So I appreciate that, that seeing where we are now from where we started, because I think it was hard to pull everyone to a room to get people to focus, to think about, where our priorities are and what it's led to. It's impacting and making positive efforts in our general plan, our urban forestry master plan, our bike master plan. We're talking about it in our transportation networks. We had a conversation in the budget, and thank you to the city manager and staff for ensuring that we had a MIOP to comply with the ACF. Thinking about it multi-years out, knowing the challenges that we have to look at transitioning our fleets into something positive is important, that forward thinking. First, let me start off, I think, with a lot of the successes. I mean, I take great pride in seeing where we are in the air quality monitoring program. This is something that I think Sacramento has stood well above and beyond any other city. I will credit Rancho for starting it first, for putting a little bit of the general fund money to look at localized monitoring, but our city took that on. Thank you, Jennifer Venema, for that effort, and I also want to thank Madeline Grigsby in my office who helped me put together that proposal when we requested it from Budget Audit. 186 monitors in the community with small businesses and homeowners in Meadowview and Southeast Sac, and Northgate, North Natomas, in Del Paso Heights, and areas that we needed to get more localized monitoring, including a mobile monitoring system with the high-tech equipment to find out the chemicals and participants, including the component about training our future scientists and environmental analysts for the future, our climate action experts. That all came out of this effort. I mean, that's something that we don't talk about a lot, but let me start off with that. I want to also thank my colleagues who also sit on multiple boards, the Air Quality Management District, the Library Authority, and because of it, not only do we have programs like the electric bookmobile that's out there, we had 3 of those, but the e-trike program. And, it was a little different to ride a trike, hadn't ridden a trike in a long time, but to use the e-trike was, and to have that as an ability to check that out at our local library at Colonial Heights out in Southeast Sac and Stockton Boulevard. That is an amazing asset for us to be able to provide mobility. So when we're going to our libraries, not only are we providing literacy, we're providing opportunity for access to workforce development at our libraries. They're places for resources, but now they're places for transportation to help us, and at least to help encourage folks to look at electric bikes. I want to thank also the efforts that's happening right now on the Streets for People campaign. This is something I've never seen in other jurisdictions throughout the state really take this on, or our public works department. And generally, public works departments, they're very focused on just road builders, right? What's about cars, and changing that philosophy, the Streets for People, making sure that and I credit my neighbor Jeremiah, who came here today to say, well, look, public roads are a public asset. They should be for people, for everyone, not just for cars. And that, I think, is an important conversation to talk about, is that they are a public space, and figuring out how do we maximize that public space for everyone is critical. So when there's a lot of conversations that are coming up, and I think the Climate Action Plan helps us in that conversation as a city voice our position when we're at the STA, when we're at other authorities, when we're talking to other folks. I think the mayor's got a concept here coming up soon, but guiding our conversation about how public road funding is spent. Yes, fixing the roads is important. Anybody who's ridden a bike, and I rather than buying a new minivan, I bought an electric cargo bike, and that's the new transportation object. But if anybody who's ridden a bike on 14th Avenue, man, it is rough. Like the condition of that roadway is difficult, and you remember it when you get home. And so not only the condition of the road, but then the feeling and safety on the road. Now that is an important aspect, because it's hard to if we're going to encourage people to use not only for work or for your commute, for your groceries, for those benefits which are essential, we got to think about how we prioritize our repaving. The city and the county went on a number of projects to fix some of our roadways where we share city and county lines. I want to make sure that those roadways, and then when we start looking at that we're thinking that we're also pushing our county partners to include that in their aspect. We have a lot roadways where they're half city, half county. I think that is an important aspect that I want our Public Works Department to be working with our county partners. Because if we're going to put our share of the money in some of these roadways, then they should also have those amenities that we think are important, which is access to biking. And I want to stress something very significant, and that is the electric bike evolution I think is going to change completely how people view, particularly in Sacramento, where we don't get snow, so we get some cold days. Yeah. And we get some this year we had some really wet days, but for the most part, throughout the year, we have a great biking opportunity. And so I think that thinking about, how we re-envision our roadways for better biking. And then the last piece on the streets for people, or safe routes to school, or I prefer how somebody mentioned it, safe routes to everywhere, is old technology. Old technology that we never talk about, and that's walking. And the condition of our sidewalks, the condition of how they are. I think any future transportation measure needs to include that aspect for sidewalks. And we've known folks in our community who have been impacted, particularly our seniors, and even our young kids. Like if you ever see a 3-year-old, when they're starting to run and they hit a sidewalk, it's a dangerous aspect. So we need to make sure that that's part of it. So on the streets for people side, the safe routes to school, I think we need to emphasize how much in the next 40 years, we can't think about the plan for the technology that's behind us, but the technology that's before us, the next 30 to 40 years, I think that's going to be a key piece. And on the issue of where this is most impactful, if you look at the map that was presented by staff, where you had the heat island effect, and you had the highest heat temperatures, it's also those District 2, 6, and 8. Those are also the districts with the lowest tree canopy, the poorest bike routes, and were designed in a sprawling time that make it difficult for people to walk around. That definitely has to change. We have to have a completely different strategy that's much more focused on helping those communities, because if we don't increase the tree canopy and you don't have the shade, folks aren't going to walk around. And all of the benefits of walking around, which is more eyes on the street, more community engagement, and the drivers, when they, we want to make sure we change that aspect where drivers are seeing more people on the street for that point of view, because that changes behavior. So I think that I want to, on the EJ communities, Sacramento is one of the AB 617 zones. That wasn't mentioned in the report. I think it's important to highlight. We have a community air protection zone identified by the state. I think out of 15 in the entire state, Sacramento is one of them. In District 8 in South Sac, it includes the county portion of it. That's important, an important piece to note. So I hope that the next up revision also talks about our efforts and what we're doing as part of the state strategy for improving air quality. And I heard a lot of, thank you again on the electric vehicle side, and bringing up the issues of the cost and what it's going to be, and for look, I mean, we still are going to have garbage trucks. Like we still have to realize that issue, and so we need to figure out how we're going to be able to get to that approach, the best approach. And I don't think it's going to be battery powered garbage trucks in the future. We need to be looking at the evolution of hydrogen fuel, and I'm glad somebody brought that up today, because that's the only way I think the heavy-duty sector is going to be moving forward with that. To that effect, I only saw one mention in the Climate Action Plan about wastewater treatment. And this is one where, even though regional sanitation is not in the direct purview of the city, we need to be, through the Climate Action Plan, have an aggressive approach with the regional sanitation district. We as members on the regional sanitation should be pushing aggressively, and not to miss a opportunity where biogas and biomethane is lost and not converted into hydrogen, and then gone to the easy route of internal combustion as form of energy generation. We should be looking at this opportunity right now, where Sacramento becomes the the hydrogen producer of its own heavy-duty fleets. So for our refuse trucks, our heavy-duty vehicle trucks, all of the vehicles that we need for our tree pruning, those should be able, if we're thinking as a full system, pushing our partners at regional sanitation to look at hydrogen production for the purposes of fuel of heavy-duty vehicles. I think we need to be the leaders in that, and I hope our climate action plan includes that. Not only that important, because it's an economic driver. Once we create that new industry, that's new jobs and opportunities for folks in our own city. And we shouldn't allow some other state or some other region beat us on that opportunity. We should be the innovators with two universities, two great engineering schools like Sac State and UC Davis. We should be taking the lead on figuring out how we look at waste management and wastewater treatment as a form to achieving our greenhouse gas goals. And even on the heavy duty side, if Twin Rivers Unified School District, if Twin Rivers can go and become the largest electric school bus fleet in the nation here locally, we the city can do it too. I mean, I think they should be lauded for the effort that they've done to change their view and to think through. Their fleet managers were the ones who said, you know what, there's a benefit here. When we look at the maintenance cost of a heavy-duty vehicle, a diesel vehicle that has fluids and oil and gas and moving parts consistently, we can benefit from switching over to an electric, school bus. And now, it wasn't without challenges. It wasn't without, fits and starts. But now they're moving forward into their third generation, and they've figured out a way to look at the charging infrastructure and for their fleets. So I think that we should look at the school districts. Natomas just went that direction. Sac Unified is catching up. But it's important to look at some of our education partners of how they've taken these efforts off, and they're in the climate action plan. But I think we need to be including that the efforts that they've done there. The last piece that I'll end with, Mayor, on the climate action plan here is when I made the motion, I added one piece to it, and I only saw one item, task 35, on it, and that was one of the things I added was to have an economic strategy, a workforce strategy for our city when it comes to our climate action plan. We saw the costs of what it's going to take to do roadways, our infrastructure repairs, everything that's involved in this. And we have to be much more aggressive in planning what that economic strategy is. I've asked for it each time, and the only thing that came back was the climate ambassadors. I think we need to be thinking about how we grow the manufacturing sector here, such like Siemens, who's producing all the electric trains. We should look at how do we enhance all the electric manufacturing for the solutions. Why aren't we producing the electric e-bikes here? So those are, I think, the effort of how do we look at the science. This is where the regional sanitation district, the hydrogen facilities production comes about, where we're looking at the making sure that we're creating that new economy. I got to thank Sheeran Lane because they've looked at the creative economy when it comes to waste, and they worked with the trash haulers to figure out how do they educate people about waste by looking at hiring artists and creatives with the new economy. So I will stop there, but I think what the things that I would like to see in the climate action plan that is critically missing also is the economic component of how our city is going to corner the market in that. And that means working with IBW. They've invested a lot in some of these efforts. I know the Employment Training Panel and the members there have put that effort. My understanding is the United Auto Workers is looking at trying to figure out how they find a place in our state, if not here, Sacramento, to be able to look at the needs for mobility, and we should be at the forefront. We shouldn't be waiting till those things come to us. I think that's a critical piece if we're going to make sure that we have a local economy that's based on that. I'll stop there, Mr. Mayor, and I want to appreciate all the work that the staff has done to get to this point that has led us, I think, being the leaders in our region for this effort.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, staff, for what is, as at least one public commenter noted, a really timely discussion as we faced a once-in-a-century storm, and whether that really reminds us every day when we walk outside that the climate crisis is here and it's happening right on our doorsteps. I do want to harken back to this 2019 climate emergency declaration, because I know staff knows my interest in seeing a model of what it would look like to get to zero emissions by 2030, because I think Moy's really hit it on the head. This is a budget conversation. That's what it means when we say achievable in the climate action plan. Those are things that we think we can pay for in the anticipated grant funding and budget funding that's available. So this is, in the end, the core policy discussion, is whether or not we're willing to pay more so that we can move faster and get more done in a timely fashion to really meet the challenge of this moment. And I also really want to center the comments of our EJ Collaborative Governance Committee member who called in, and sorry I didn't write down your name, because you're right that equity guardrails are very different than centering equity in our approach. And like one really great example is appliance standards. And again, staff has heard me say this, it's one thing to set an appliance standard when we're setting an appliance standard based on rebates, and we know that some families are not going to be able to access those rebates. That is not equity, right? Like, we know that coming out the gate that some people who are undocumented, who can't afford the upfront costs, are not going to be able to access that. And so that is not centering equity. Similarly, when it comes to the urban tree canopy improvements discussion, implementation measures are key, because it's not like we have a bunch of unpaved irrigated space in South and North Sacramento, right? I mean, we're going to have to figure out what does it look like to convert what is currently paved space into green space. And that really speaks to the broader theme tonight of, it's one thing to have a goal that says we're going to increase our urban canopy by X percentage, but it's very different to actually have a strategy as to how we're going to get there, especially in neighborhoods. There's a long history of why those neighborhoods don't have it. And yes, it is due to environmental racism. I do want to talk specifically about electrification barriers, and just to say that we will never, ever, ever get there if we are going charger by charger and project by project. We will never get there if that is our strategy and approach. We have got to be more logical with this. We have got to start planning this geographically. We have got to start working with SMUD and say, hey, where are you going to upgrade your transformers so that we can plan to bring chargers in right behind it when they're there, so that we know what's available to us and we can not pay for that, but plan how to strategize. I mean, that sort of linking together of resources and strategy, hopefully that starts in North and South Sacramento, because those are the historically red line neighborhoods, and they do face the most barriers when it comes to adopting electrification. Like, let's start there. And we know that's where our courtyards are. And so it's like, what a great synergy, right? To say, hey, we're going to start in North South Sac, we're going to work with SMUD, they're going to upgrade the infrastructure, and we're going to come in behind them and then be ready. So those sort of strategies are what I'm missing when I look at just pure cost for transforming to zero emission heavy duty and medium duty vehicles. And I do want to echo the concerns about the focus on light duty EV, because there are a lot of concerns with light duty EV, not the least of which is lithium batteries and where that comes from. If you didn't see, don't look up. There's a reason that lithium was the mineral that they were using as an example on that comet heading towards Earth. It's like we start to lose sight of what the goal is, and we end up reinforcing very wasteful, very extractive practices. And lithium is a finite resource. Many of the other minerals and lithium batteries come from really places of the world that are not doing great things. And so like, EVs are not going to save us. They are necessary for certain types of equipment that just like, we're going to need to haul trash somewhere. But I also really want to draw a really bright highlight over hydrogen, because that is equally potentially as problematic as EVs. And I just think it's really important, if we're going to have a conversation about hydrogen, that we make sure we're being really thoughtful about where that comes from, how it's stored, how it's transported, because we end up, again, creating systems that reinforce the very wasteful activities that we're hoping to minimize. And that's something we need to be really intentional about. I will say, somebody mentioned education around slowing down. I want to give props to some of our active transportation commissioners that have just launched an initiative called Slow Down Sacramento. I think there's a press conference next Tuesday. I hope you come. Obviously, education on just taking a beat and what that means for bicyclists and pedestrians is huge, but we can't get around the infrastructure challenges. Like, that's just, it's real. We know that certain accidents are happening more frequently on certain roads because of how they're built. And that comes to the targets, because I really do support increasing the targets when it comes to active transportation mode share and public transit mode share. I don't know how we get around really tackling the deep equity issues and those co-benefits, because I think what the public commenters were saying is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what happens when we invest in bike lanes and pedestrian ways. And again, this circles back to, this is essentially a budget priorities discussion, and that's something that I would like to see modeled, so that when we adopt this final plan, we are doing so in a tangible way, knowing what we're committing to, and also what choice we're making in terms of what we're not committing to, because we're not willing to make that budget commitment at this time. That is an important trade-off that we need to be willing to talk about openly in front of our community. And then I want to mention many of my constituents' favorite topics, leaf blowers, ironically not listed anywhere in here. And what's fascinating to me is that, yes, the state has their target for zero emissions sales, which is huge. That doesn't really tackle existing. And it also doesn't, again, going back to the EJ point, implementation steps. How do we make sure that landscapers understand how to use, that they have access to, that they know other practices? Like, I saw somebody standing on top of the apartment building next to me with a leaf blower trying to get a bunch of wet leaves off of the roof. And it was that if you've tried to move wet leaves, leaf blowers don't really do anything. It just sort of like, he was just standing there like, for like 30 minutes. And I almost opened my window to yell at him, just like, get a broom. Like I'm sorry, a broom, like that would have been cleared like in 5 minutes if you had a broom. But like, I think that there's a lot in terms of implementation steps when it comes to that measure, because that is a pretty significant source of local emissions. It's not quantified in here at all. I know we're planning on zero emission, but again, that doesn't tackle existing. We know a lot of folks are repairing existing equipment, and how do we implement that equitably and make sure that people who don't speak English, again, who can't access the rebates, can access the zero emission equipment for when they might need it. And finally, on my last note here, I want to comment briefly on the SACB articles that published last week about SoCal Gas and the electrification ordinances, because in that there are specific connections drawn to advocacy around Sacramento's ordinance and people who are on our technical advisory committee. I think it's really important as we move forward that we think about what does conflict of interest policies and ethics policies look like for committees like this, and maybe have a discussion item brought back to council on specifically, because we did vote on that technical advisory committee, and I do think given the evidence that's come to light in the B, it would be important for us to talk about our expectations for that committee and the members of that committee, and what sort of standards we hold in place for people who are volunteering their time for that. So that's my last comment, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Kaplan.
I want to thank my colleagues, because I'll just add a me too and a couple other items. I really want to thank Jennifer, Allison, Matt, and Vic. Staff, I know you have spent a lot of time on this. Specifically on the quarterly climate update, I have just a couple of questions. So looking at the advanced clean fleets regulations and implementation, I know you provided us just a snapshot of what the budget is. I look forward to getting something a little bit more comprehensive, because I know that's going to have to be discussed in budget and audit. And I think it's the sticker shock is going to be kind of hurtful and, painful. And I think, but we need to address it up front so we know what's in front of us. I know the city's looking in it, but I will just, are there any federal or state grants that are out there as they put forward this unfunded mandate?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Kaplan. There are a variety of programs we will continue to evaluate. Typically, these programs are competitive and tend to focus on infrastructure that's available to the public. That doesn't quite meet our needs for secure charging behind gates where we keep most of our fleet and equipment. There is a forthcoming program from the Energy Commission we're monitoring, but it's very small, and we know there's a lot of demand. So we'll keep exploring, but at the near term, no big opportunities on the horizon.
Thank you. And as you are required to come back to us with these updates, would be good is keeping this highlighted, because I know the city of Sacramento is not the only one who's going to be in this situation, and what happens when all cities and local jurisdictions can't meet these new regulations because there's just not funding available. And I know lofty goals are put in place and then sometimes they change, but just trying to stay abreast on that. On question on task 20 from the critical climate action tasks, is to facilitate a standing, open networking and collaboration meeting with climate-focused stakeholders. What is the status of implementation of these meetings, and what are the goals we're hoping to achieve?
This is an item that we still have to initiate. It's on the work plan, something we're committed to do. Now that we have the plans released, what we've been exploring as staff is that this working group could really be focused on helping to provide input on implementation and monitoring. So we do look forward to those conversations and convening, and we can have an update on that at our next update to the council.
I mean, this is just really timely because of everything we're discussing. How does it loop in with the goals and climate action plan? And what are you looking and you're hoping like your achievable goals? Would also love, as we started the E-Trike pilot program, would love, after a little time to get feedback. How does it work? Is this something we need to look at expanding to other communities and libraries, especially in our disadvantaged areas? So thank you for all of that work. Really appreciate it. Now turning to item 18. This really is, as we've all said, extremely timely. I will send notes. As you know, I get a little detailed. I really appreciate a lot of the policies with the built environment, the waste section, as well as the water and the wastewater, and want to echo comments from fellow council member Eric Guerra, because I think there is a lot of opportunity to partner when we look at the regional sanitation district and what are best practices with climate change, and how can we implement that and look at surrounding jurisdictions. I think there's partnership opportunities, and I'm a big believer somebody has already invented the wheel. How can we take it and how does it fit Sacramento? We talked a lot about, we all know I'm Natomas, and safe routes to school is something really important to me, and Natomas was one of the first districts in the state almost 18 years ago that partnered with Caltrans to get a grant on what safe routes to school really look like. So what I did not see and would love to see in addition in TR in the transportation section 1.6, we add something that says we're going to prioritize the construction and rehabilitation of comprehensive connected networks of safe and accessible bikeways, prioritizing low-income and disadvantaged communities first. I think that's broad enough that it starts focusing on safe routes to school, as well as addressing, my community has a lot of, we'd like to bike downtown. There is not a clear patch of bikeways to safely get downtown, and how do we connect that? I'd also like to add TR 1.7, that we collaborate with public and private partnerships to provide incentives to residents to purchase e-bikes. This is a cost that, when we look at especially our disadvantaged communities, our teacher who wants to get to school where our bus routes are not accessible, as we prioritize safety in biking, but also looking at e-bikes that would provide a safety, a small added extra safety in that regard. I'd also look at amending TR 2.10, where it talks about SAC-RT, where we need to remove barriers to access transit stops and stations and provide enhanced comfortable stops and stations. I mean, enhanced comfortable, I hope we also are, that includes shaded, because, many areas do not have trees and people are standing out in 110 heat with no cover waiting for the bus to come. But I'd like to include that language that says by 2030. We really need to have a plan on how we're going to implement this. We make lots of plans, but we don't discuss implementing them. And so providing dates sometimes I think helps move us along, as well as amend TR 3.2 to say continue to support a variety of public and public-private partnerships to provide more publicly accessible chargers throughout the city, and then add in the language prioritizing low-income and disadvantaged neighborhoods. We know if people are purchasing electric, we also need to look at the desert areas in that regard. Moving on to trees and carbon sequencing, if you go back and look at that map, Natomas is a newer and new growth area, and it does have the least amount of tree and shade coverage. That's still going to take a fair amount of time to provide any true shade that is needed to address the climate goals. but I think we're taking too long on so I'd like to amend section CS 1.3 to add in where it says develop online educational materials, add in by 2025. There is a lot of information already out there. I think we need to push it forward on how we're going to do that and prioritize. And then a couple questions. In some of the letters we received regarding why the Mayor's Commission on Climate Change had goals of 30% mode share by 2030, 40% by 2045, whereas the CAP goals are only 6% mode share by 2030 and 12% by 2045. Can somebody speak as to why there's a significant difference and why we haven't increased our goals to match theirs?
Thank you. I'm going to ask Ryan Gardner, our project consultant, to speak to the technical element there.
Hi.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, I think one difference is the language that each of those are speaking with the mode share of trips versus the mode share of VMT. So trips is like just the number of trips we're taking, right? And with active transportation, we're usually looking at trips within the city, a couple of miles. In the Climate Action Plan, we're looking at all of the VMT that enters the city, and a lot of those trips are originating in the Bay Area, out in the Central Valley, like around the city. So the difference is not as big as it looks. It's that difference in language. And then the other piece of this is, I think when we translate trips into VMT, they're much closer. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but they are pretty similar. The other part of this is that we do, because this is a qualified greenhouse gas reduction plan, we have to provide substantial evidence that we can get to the targets that we're putting. And if you look at a 30 or 40% trip mode share, no city in California, I don't think any city in America has anywhere near that. So it's a really challenging standard, and we tried our best to be really aggressive without going into the realm of questioning if we can get there and undermining the legal defensibility of the document.
Which I really, truly appreciate this explanation. I wonder if there's a way when we talk about it, we provide clear definitions, like within where you're talking about it. So people don't have to flip back and forth for that understanding, because this is very technical, but how do we make it understandable for those who are reading it? Because your explanation was brilliant. I get it. But that wasn't something that popped that I understood as I read that. So thank you so much for that. We also, one of the letters just indicated that in the creation of the CAP, the city had not collaborated with any health organizations that specialize in climate change and health equity. Have we done that? Do we plan on doing that?
Good evening. Matt Hurdle, a manager of long-range planning. We would be absolutely welcome to collaborate with anyone who wants to think about creatively how we can add additional policies, actions, and measures. We have met with thousands of people over the creation of this document, but we'd be happy to meet with any public health organizations that want to collaborate with us.
Okay, perfect. And then the big item is we talk about tangible and funding sources. Plans are plans are plans without we look at the cost and the dollars and what it's going to take to implement some of these things. And I think it's really beneficial to the extent, like, we know costs change, there's inflation, but what do we estimate things to cost? Because I think it's really important if we're to implement these, it needs to be provided to the council so they can start discussing it in our budget and audit. So it becomes part of the annual discussion of where are our priorities as a council? How much is this going to cost? Where are we going to fund? Is the council going to change direction and say we need to do more active transportation because I know A, B, C, and D, and I've got the funding out here? So I would, to the extent possible, because I know it's not infinitely possible, I think we need to have some budget funding attached to this, because there's no way we can look at how do we implement it unless we have like a funding or a finance plan. What is it going to take? And present it so that the council can say these are our priorities and we need to figure out how to fund and finance all of this. So thank you everyone for all of your hard work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Council Member. Councilmember Maple.
Thank you, Mayor. So first of all, I just want to start out by saying thank you for all of the hard work. I mean, I know it's been many, many, many months, years in the making, and a lot of iteration. So none of this happens overnight. This is always a iterative process that takes a lot of time, and just really appreciate the commitment to working with community, always being willing to have more people at the table and incorporate that into the plan. So thank you. So I was listening to NPR this morning, and I was reflecting on what I might say tonight on this topic, and the topic was on dying coral reefs. That was after listening to news about deadly wildfires, unprecedented flooding, and even a new term I hadn't heard before, a hurricane in Southern California. That was a new one. And I couldn't help but think about myself listening to NPR 10 years ago, and when I was really first starting to think about these topics, and how I would feel right now knowing that this is our current climate reality. Scientists warned then what we are seeing now, and what they are warning of now is very terrifying. So now I know, and what is meant when people say the term climate anxiety. It's something that I feel, and I know a lot of other young people feel it too. When I was substitute teaching last summer, this is something I heard the most from young people, is when I asked them, what do you think are the most important topics that the city is facing, that our region is facing, I was expecting them to say housing or homelessness, and without fail, the thing I heard the most was the climate and the fear of what is your future. And so I just want to say that I appreciate everyone who showed up today to speak, to share your comments, to put in hours and hours of work putting together all these letters that I read and e-comments. It takes a lot of time, and you already have very busy schedules. And so you're doing this because this is your future. And I really appreciate that and want to uplift that. And I want to talk about two things that I've experienced just this month. While I was hosting a movie night in South Sacramento, I had to run to the aid of a young girl who was hit by a car while riding her bike in the crosswalk. And just this last week, I was during a tour, I was ushered past the body of a cyclist covered by a tarp. They were the victim of a hit and run, an unfortunate but familiar story in our city. It was a very visceral reminder. And so, my comments are that having a vast connected network of public transit, bike lanes, and pedestrian infrastructure needs to be our utmost priority. I would like to uplift many of the comments that were made tonight by our public speakers to increase the active transportation mode share target. I think that needs to be a priority of ours. And just, active transportation in general, I know there's so much good work that's happening in the city on that front, but, we do need to fund it. I think most people would be shocked to know that a lot of all of our active transportation is grant funded through the hard work of our city staff. And a lot of those staff positions are grant funded. And so we really, I think, need to have a conversation collectively about what's our commitment as a city, what's our commitment as a region to active transportation, because those investments can have enormous benefits. Many of those were already talked about tonight, so I won't go belabor them, but I think importantly, slowing down traffic is also good for business, right? When we are more likely to patron a small business when we're walking by than we're traveling 40 miles an hour on city streets as a bypass to the freeway. And so I think the economic benefits are many, in addition to, the stories that we heard tonight, people trying to get to and fro to work and to school and feeling safe and feeling like their communities support them, their streets support them. And so that's one thing I would like to see. I also recently saw a graphic that showed the amount of geographic area in our city that is designated for cars versus communal areas, and that was very eye-opening to me. I was like, wow. This is a policy decision that we've made, that has been made over many, many decades. We have chosen to take physical space in our city and give it to cars as a way for folks to get around. And so I think we collectively should also rethink that designation of physical space in our city. One thing that I'd love to see in the plan is, I think it's often framed as closing down streets to cars. I would love to frame this as opening up streets to people. So really taking a look at where are the streets in our city, especially in, Midtown, downtown. I know there's some in Oak Park and other communities that we could really, wouldn't be a huge loss to the cars, but would be a huge gain to the communities and the people to have those spaces reclaimed. So I'd love to see that explored. I also want to support the Safe Rides to School organizers that are here. I want to see that discussed in the plan, and also looking at maybe a citywide implementation of that. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like, we need to have these opportunities for young people, not to mention the benefits to their physical health by being able to choose those kinds of options and being able to do so safely, and then passing that on to hopefully their children. Lastly, I really wanted to uplift the comment around the single-use plastics. We know that that's a huge problem. It's devastating worldwide, and we can actually have an impact on that locally. So I would love to see that connection between single-use plastics and climate addressed, and kind of we can all think through from a policy standpoint what that looks like locally, but we can be leaders on that front. So again, just want to thank staff for their hard work, and especially going above and beyond to engage with the community. I'm proud of our city for taking these steps. We have, we're leading the charge in a lot of ways. There's not a lot of cities that are doing this in this way. So I recognize that, and we take one step ahead. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent. Councilmember Talamantes.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have a few dangerous corridors in my area, from El Camino to Northgate to San Juan and many more, just because of the way that Natomas was built back in the day. And I love downtown, and everyone in my community loves coming downtown, but many times there's a hyper focus on downtown, and we need to make sure that our communities that live north of the river also feel heard in this process, and that outreach is intentional when coming out there. So we are a very car-centric community out there because we do have a lack of transportation options available to us. And as we grow, we must rely on something other than the highway expansion. We need to continue finding alternatives, such as improving our urban trail and bicycle path networks. So I'd love to see some aggressive action on connecting our area to the central city and supporting connections to the north, including but not limited to the improvements of Jack Rabbit Trail, which is an ask from Jive, who is helping us on that, and our Niños Parkway, which is one of our connectors. I do want to give kudos to our colleague, Vice Mayor Guerra, for all his hard work on electrification and on air quality, and really becoming an expert in this area. Thank you, Eric, for all the work that you do. And I have Marbella, who is president of our local neighborhood association, GNNA, who's actually working closely with SMUD and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce on the electrification of our businesses down the Northgate corridor. We received ARPA funding the last few years, and we're well underway in helping them improve their businesses and become more climate change friendly, and hoping that sets a trend in the community and that we do more of it. And to Councilmember Maple, opening up our streets for people, I love that. So I'm going to start using that too. And that's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry for punching up again, but I couldn't go without also thanking Marbella Salas for joining me in an effort with Saba and Regional Sands. Councilmember Kaplan brought up the incentives for e-bikes. We're actually working on that. And we're working on making sure that Sacramento is at the forefront on the $10 million that's going to come available in November for e-bikes. We could get up to $1,000 for an e-bike and up to $1,500 for a cargo bike, so that you could, like I'm commuting my baby to childcare and my kid to school because with that cargo bike. But I just wanted to thank Marbella Salas for, going out and saying, you know what, we need to advocate for Sacramento, not only to be part of the effort, but to be on the soft launch for this effort. So thank you, Marbella, and proud to, thank you for bringing that up. I should have recognized it a lot earlier. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll make a final comment. First of all, thank you for untold hours of work, the city team, and for really elevating and uplifting our climate agenda in the city and to the community. From all the different coalitions who have been demanding more action. I know I hear you. I think my colleagues hear you. And we are doing more, and we have to do much more. Two final things. Number one, I want to echo Councilmember Valenzuela's call for, I never want to presume everything we read in the newspaper is true, because sometimes accusations can be made that aren't right. But that article about the electrification ordinance and some of the some of the influences from Southern California connected to some of our local advocates trying to kill, frankly, at least some portion of the electrification ordinance. And the fact that some of those folks are serving on our technical advisory committee, that at least deserves, without, making any conclusions, that deserves just a thorough looking into so that we can make sure we're doing the right thing. So thank you for raising that. Somebody used the term elephant in the room, the cliche, and Councilmember Kaplan, everybody else kind of alluded to the same thing, which is where do we get the money? This is what we grapple with here locally. And so I urge us all to be thinking ahead, about potential future ballot measures, to be thinking ahead to 2024 and 2026. I'm going to give my last of 3 state addresses on Friday, in which I intend to address this subject in some detail. Because if we don't make climate funding and clean transportation funding and funding of other key priorities the focus of our ballot efforts going forward, we're not going to find the money. It's not coming out of our city's general fund. It just isn't. We have, and I know people can criticize us for that. Well, if it really mattered, okay, I get it, Lori Lippman, and I respect you immensely. But that's not the way this is going to get done. It's going to be done if we take a vision, the kind you have all articulated here, and we figure out a way to get to the ballot in the right way and make sure that not only for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, but for 20, 30, and 40 years, we are investing consistently in doing our part to save the climate. It's not global warming anymore. It's global boiling, as they say. It's true. Oh, my God. Hurricanes in California. I mean, what? Raining in August. I mean, it's... So, we got great opportunities ahead, and let's go after it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the team. That concludes our hearing. I think, right? There's not a vote? That concludes our hearing. We do have public testimony on items not on the agenda, and then we have council comments.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have 12 commenters in the chamber. A reminder to members of the public, if you'd like to speak on an agenda item, you'll need to complete a slip and turn it into the Assistant City Clerk. And if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. After the first speaker, we will no longer accept speaker slips, and the raise hand feature in Zoom will be disabled. And a reminder that this is matters on the agenda, but Government Code 54954.3 does require that the comments are within the subject matter and jurisdiction of the City Council. Our first speaker in the chamber is Marv Blazik, followed by Gerald Landreth, and then Jeffrey Tartaguia. Thank you, Mayor. Sure. Marv, are you here? No? Okay. Gerald Landreth? Okay. Jeffrey Tartaguia. Marissa Flores, I appreciate everyone's patience, and Charles DeMars. Jeffrey? Okay.
Gerald.
No, Jeffrey.
Charles.
Marissa? Okay, Charles DeMars, followed by Kyle Williams, and then MVW. No Charles?
Yeah. Gerald?
No, Charles.
I signed up, so I don't know when I am.
Okay, I'm not probably there yet. This is Charles DeMars.
Charles DeMars. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I am coming here to comment because around this time last year, Sacramento PD came into a 311 call where I called in for emergency help for a wellness check. SACPD showed up there and accused me of being the victim of domestic violence and arrested this woman the day before her birthday, and she was struggling and complaining about not having money. So SACPD subsequently arrested her in her apartment and took her down for domestic violence. I had to bail her out for $4,000. You wonder where the money goes. And then I tried to get that back. I opened up an internal affairs investigation case with SACPD. They didn't do any of that. Then one day, somebody thought that because of the incident, SACPD ripped me out of the back of a room, slammed me into a wall, broke a beam, broke a board on the floor when they face planted me, dragged me face down the steps, picked me up and slammed me against the wall and threw me in the back of a cop car. They didn't arrest me. They dumped me off at the Freeport Bar and Grill, where I slept in a manger in Yolo County the day before Christmas. This all happened, and I can't get the $4,000 bail money after they dropped the charges on Miss Flores, who is not here to speak for herself. Mind you, she was the other person, but she had to go for personal reasons. And I'm just wondering, I know there's a culpable immunity that SACPD likes to use to justify them not even listening to the truth, but taking their own assumptions and making a situation way worse, and I have to pay for it because this is a few weeks before bail reform happened. So where's my $4,000? Sacramento, can I have my $4,000 back from Padilla bail bonds for them not doing a proper wellness or even 5150 check?
Thank you for your comments. Your time is complete. Kyle Williams, followed by MVW, and then O.
How is everybody? Hey, thank you, Katie, for bringing that up tonight. And Mrs. Maples, I'd like to remind everybody off of Mrs. Maples' comments that Los Angeles didn't become Los Angeles overnight. So in order for us to keep Sacramento somewhat small, we're going to have to try to do that. Because I'm sure in the 40s, Los Angeles was considered a small, beautiful town like Sacramento. And then it grew, and then it grew, and then it grew, and now there's 20 million people in 20 million people something in Los Angeles County. I'd also like to look up at the camera and remind the independents and Republicans that you need to show up here. What we have is a whole bunch of Democrats and a whole bunch of Democrats, for the most part. And we're all wonderful people, but we can only learn so much from our own side. So we need independents and Republicans to show up. Please. I'd like to remind all of you up here of a quote up here serving. Thank you very much, by the way, for serving and all the above. I'm an independent. I am not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I can't imagine being registered for either party from a federal level. They're pathetic if you really look at it. But anyway, rank does not confer privilege or give power, ladies. It imposes responsibility. So I want to remind you of that. And I want to talk about tree stumps idea because your lady called me back. She didn't follow up. I feel like it'll be another 2 months till she calls me again. There's 200 trees that fell down. There's a tree stump left behind in each one. How about making a bench or something really cool on those tree stumps? Think about it. I don't know what it would be, but there's a lot of tree stumps out there that are massive. And they might make cool benches or something creative. There's a lot of artistically cool people in this town. Start thinking.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
MPW, followed by O, and then Charles Faust. Can we have the dot camera, please?
60 years ago today, at the March on Washington, John Lewis said, "To those who have said, be patient and wait, we have long said that we cannot be patient. We do not want our freedom gradually, but we want our freedom now. We are tired. We are tired of being beaten by policemen. We are tired of seeing our people locked up in jail over and over again. And then you holler, be patient. How long can we be patient? We want our freedom and we want it now. We do not want to go to jail, but we will go to jail if this is the price we must pay for our love, brotherhood, and true peace." So those dreams that were on the March on Washington are not our demands. So our community demands are, we demand a moratorium on all military equipment purchases. We demand City Council approve SPRC recommendations on military equipment use. And we demand that you guys actually make a liaison in the room, an actual policeman in the room. It's very simple. We demand a real-time data transparency ordinance for Sacramento City. We demand an end to SacPD's use of pretextual traffic stops. We demand an end to SacPD's use of unmarked cars and plainclothes police officers. We demand SacPD dissolve its gang enforcement and problem-oriented policing teams. We demand a moratorium on all encampment sweeps by SacPD. We demand an end to SacPD's traffic enforcement. And lastly, we demand an end to SacPD's answering of all mental health calls.
Thank you for your comments. O, followed by Charles Faust, and then Rev.
Equity in its simple terms as it relates to racial and social justice means meeting Black and brown communities where they are and allocating resources and opportunities as needed to create equal outcomes for all community members, not just the white ones. During the Racial Equity Committee today, Black and brown Sacramento core members had to beg the council to continue their cannabis business program when they are already barely surviving because the state and city are taxing the hell out of them. Mind you, the taxes that the city receives are supposed to be getting put back into our impoverished Black and brown communities, but we still see no signs of that. Also, while the Equity Committee moved on to speaking about the mandatory diversity training, the mayor disrespectfully interrupted Lambert Davis, a beloved Black man from District 2, during his public comment for no other reason than he didn't like what we had to say about holding our city manager accountable. Y'all spoke today about women's equality, but I can't help but think about the women and women of color on our council who weekly go unheard and are challenged every step of the way by the men on the council, specifically the city manager. They may think your ideas are cute, but it's clear they don't take y'all seriously. And just in case anyone missed it, SacPD murdered someone while we were in City Hall last week, even after their non-lethal military equipment was deployed and unsuccessful. The result ended in your officers shooting and killing someone who only had a knife. I don't know about you, but if I was showing up to a gun versus knife fight, it doesn't take much common sense to understand that the gun wins. Y'all talk about equity, but there is rarely ever any action or follow through. The reason our Black and brown communities are dying is because the lack of equity for us in this city, the lack of equity when it comes to climate change, the lack of equity when it comes to housing, the lack of equity when it comes to police brutality, lack of equity when it comes to healthcare, job opportunities, tenant and worker rights, and the lack of equity when it comes to our unhoused neighbors. The rich keep getting richer, go unchecked, while the poor struggle more and more and are getting criminalized and killed for it.
Thank you for your comments. Charles Faust, followed by Rev, and then Sunrise.
Hello. I just want you guys to know that I'm not your enemy on this stuff with homelessness. A lot of us really are trying to solve this problem. And people really are suffering out there. You all know that. You all see it. In the last week, I've had conversations with a few homeless people. One of them was a family that was moved, and now her children don't know how they're going to get to school anymore. They have a right to go to the school in which they were, but getting there is going to be almost impossible for them, trying to navigate city buses and light rail and stuff like that. So it's just incredibly difficult. So obviously we need to stop sweeping, but also we really need to focus on not sweeping families, not sweeping children. And I think throughout the year, there's not just a few hundred, not just a few thousand, there's tens of thousands of children that are housing insecure or homeless. And that needs to be a priority. I mean, all homelessness really needs to be a priority, but if we're going to sweep families, we need to be giving them housing, something stable to where for the next 10 months they have a way to get their kids to school. So we need to focus on that. I wish the mayor was here. Last time I came to this, he and the city manager said they're going to call me about some solutions that we have in some locations, and that didn't happen. So I don't know, if one of you guys could try to pressure him to call me. I think in the next 18 months that he's still in office, we could actually get about 3,000 beds going before he leaves office, if he focuses on it and he makes it a priority. Because he has special power and ability to get in rooms that no one else really has. And I think we really could fix this problem in the next 18 months, where if we don't have help from someone like him, it is a 5-year plan. And in that time, it's, tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of children that are suffering for it. So if one of you guys could get him to call me, or the city manager to call me, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Rep. Followed by Sunrise, Gerald Landreth, and our final speaker is Mayor Belisala.
Good evening, Council. Is it possible to look at a video on the screen? Will it play
We can put a camera up.
I don't know how to do none of that stuff there.
We'll do that. You can go ahead and start.
I don't know if it'll pull it through to see it. This is over an area where I frequently am off of 3rd in between X and W. Around that whole entire corner, they must have spent at least $200,000 or $300,000 worth of rocks and gates and everything to think they beautifying it for nothing. It looks nasty. They painted all the freeway underpasses. For what? They should have actually done the little artistic decor around there to kind of beautify it instead of make it look like you're driving into a prison section. It looks really stupid. And then knowing my homeless people out there with so much without, and y'all got money for that, they could have built a nice place. I'm starting a movement through my Homeless for Heaven organization. I'm going to start having them secure your city, meaning they can sit out in front of everywhere just like you have these high-paid security guards and some of these overpaid police officers to do. They would actually sit there and post up and protect what they sit in front of. They'll protect me if I'm out there, so I know they'll protect your stuff. Also to have them start cleaning up the city. They do sit around a dirty, filthy area because they don't have no dumpster, no trash bins or nothing like that, or equivalent amount of bags to do anything. So I want to get bags for them so they can start cleaning up the city and make themselves show that the worth that they have. Ain't like they was born homeless. They were working and part of the American society as you see it. So I just want to get that back by putting them to work. It's not about handing them no more food like they do out in front of City Hall every Tuesday. I guess that's to make City Hall look good because they walk away just as sad as they is before they got the meal. So I want to do something to help change their lives, and that's the only thing to do is put them to work. God bless you all.
Thank you for your comments, Sunrise, followed by Gerald Landreth.
Good evening again, Council. Related to tonight's topic of climate, I want to talk about what's happening in Southern California. As we know, this torrential hurricane is hitting, and we're seeing governments like the city of San Diego closing government buildings in response to these terrible conditions that are harmful to human health. I want to directly parallel that to what this city did in 2021 when we had a bomb cyclone, a historic rainfall event here in Sacramento, right before the Ironman race that was supposed to happen also was canceled. Tons of encampments were swept in our central city, and that resulted directly in deaths for an event that was canceled because of how torrential and dangerous the weather conditions, the climate disaster was at that time. This policy of sweeps, we know results in deaths. We know results in deaths, deaths that don't have to happen. As we're thinking about how we spend money in response to homelessness, I want to read this quick excerpt. The UCSF Benioff Homelessness and Housing Initiative recently released a study of people experiencing homelessness in California specifically. The study shows that 90% of the people surveyed said they were last housed in California, 75% living in the same county where they lost their housing, primarily because they lost income as the main reason. The vast majority of people surveyed said a subsidy of as little as $300 a month could have kept them off the streets. Just $300 a month. What's the amount that we're spending on safe shelters, on safe parking? The money is there. We just need to be more creative about people-centered solutions, not reacting to crises that emerge because of our inaction, specifically with violence and resulting in deaths that don't have to happen.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Gerald Landreth.
Hello, my name's Gerald Landreth, and I'm at 2339 Altos Avenue. And I just moved up here from Brentwood, which if anybody's knows Brentwood, there is no homeless there. So when I came up here, I was in for quite a shock because my daughter lives up here. So I moved in here because I've had some surgeries and all that going on. But I didn't realize the encampment that's across the street from her. And I'm going, well, I told my daughter, I go, isn't this a residential area? Why is there tents down a bike path? And since I've been there, there's been 2 fires there. There's been 2 fights there. And this is a real problem. I called the police and I said, hey, what's going on here? What can't you guys do it? I mean, aren't they on private property here? Can't you guys get rid of them because they're not even supposed to be on a bike path? And they actually told me, no, we can't do anything because you have to go to the city and talk to them about it. Our hands are tied. We can't enforce the law, is what they told me. So, and I've heard this from about maybe 4 or 5 policemen. I've called them, and I've only been here 3 months, and I see the big problem that you guys have here. I'm not, I haven't experienced the problem that you guys have had. Like I say, I've been in Brentwood. I keep my doors open, unlocked. I can walk anywhere in that city, and I feel safe. I don't feel safe in your city, and I'm just telling you that straight up. I don't. And that's about all I really want to say, but it's just, to me, it's really, really bad down there. There's cars parked all over where the grass is, which they shouldn't even be there because it says no parking there. And there's no parking signs there at all. The cars shouldn't even be there. I've got, where I'm at, there's like cars coming and going all night long. And it wakes me up, and I'm retired. And I really don't appreciate that. So I just want to let you know what I'm looking at.
Thank you for your comments. Marbella Sala?
Good evening. Thank you. I'm Marbella Sala. I'm the president of Garlandland Northgate Neighborhood Association. I'm also the Measure U District 3 Commissioner. But first, I just want to say thank you to Councilman Guerra, Council Member Talamantes for acknowledging Northgate and acknowledging our work that we're doing together. I appreciate that. And I also just want to say that Northgate has there's the Northgate Mobility Plan. It's an amazing plan that's going to address the safety on Northgate. It's just not funded. So any way we can get funds, I appreciate it. But I'm here to just ask of you. Last night I was up there as a Measure U commissioner, and we really were struggling with the fact that we have to work through subcommittees. And we have a subcommittee for budget, and we, as of yet, haven't been able to meet. And so I remember when this was passed, and all of you had a discussion about it, and it's almost been a year. And part of, at the ending comment was you would revisit the effectiveness of having these subcommittees and whether the work is able to get done. The cost involved in setting these subcommittees, it isn't just the timing, it's also everything that is required to have these subcommittees meet so we can get the work of the commissions. And so I just ask that you reconsider doing a review and look at whether it's effective and not only in time and doing our work, but also it's budgetarily cost effective to continue that and maybe consider going back to the ad hocs. And my last ask is we're just completed. We have 17 grantees for participatory budgeting. And I know the mayor said that he would like to have a workshop so all of you can hear about the wonderful work and the process that happened. And he said he would do it in September. So I would love to have that happen here. Okay, thank you.
Our last speaker in the chamber is Mary Blazovic.
Well, I don't mean to bore you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Mayor. I'm here because I've had some harsh realities come to my attention. My civil rights were violated by some police officers who had a different sexual orientation than I do. I'm straight. And that caused me to have, I won't go into all the detail and bore you with it, but I have organic brain trauma on both sides of my face. and I also have central nervous system damage. Last week, or a week, I guess it's been about a week and a half ago, I finally figured out the person that was involved was a traitor. And I'm owed $2.6 million plus interest compounded annually. And I decided not to take that on. I decided to contribute that to this country that I love. I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't do drugs. I don't live in the homeless camps. I am a refugee. I do live on the street. I had somebody from the Department of Human Resources come over and tell me I had to move around the corner and not to be on the street, on the sidewalk. And this individual had the audacity to rip open my door on my tent. I could have been sitting there in my birthday suit for all this individual knew. So I don't like that kind of treatment. I don't treat others like that, and I don't expect...
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, I guess, but you get the point. I'm terribly, terribly sorry, but I'm an American.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
And we have 10 people on our Zoom. PJ, please unmute.
Yeah, the city has ways to minimize the impacts of homelessness. It just chooses not to. So any overwhelming impact is the city's choice. It chooses not to provide garbage pickup. It chooses not to provide bathrooms. It chooses not to tell folks where they can park safely and out of the way of residents. And it chooses not to provide safe ways for folks to cook food or fire extinguishers. So that's why fires happen. In relation to climate change, the simple point is individual changes like single-use plastics and recycling containers aren't enough to address the issue at scale. They are meant to make us feel better while nothing fundamentally changes. The largest way local governments can impact climate change is through increasing transit and decreasing personal vehicle usage. You have the solutions. Anything else is intentional harm perpetuated towards impacted communities. Grant programs aren't enough. More ballot measure promises where Darrell will promise everything to everyone. We saw Measure U, where you went around to everyone and promised everything and nothing came through in the end. You just used the money for more cops, which is the opposite of community. The reality is that continuously chasing grant programs means that addressing an issue isn't important enough to access the general fund's $230 million set aside for ghost police who don't even exist. It prioritizes people continuously searching for new grants to fund their own positions. It sets their employment as tenuous and makes it hard to keep quality employees who know their job when they know their job is at risk with each new grant cycle. Climate change isn't a priority to you because your budget shows us your priority and none of this stuff is in there. And the reason why Darrell left is because he doesn't care about public comment. It's the same way he combines items so you can't make comments on multiple items. It's purposeful. It's meant to disenfranchise us. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Richard Wake, please unmute.
Richard Wake, City Council, District 7. People, one of the things that I tuned in a little bit late this evening, but one of the things I was listening to at the end was, funding for programs, regarding climate change. But, the other week there was a big article in the Sacramento Bee about the settlement with Paul Petrovich. And, that cost the city roughly about $27 million, including the purchase of a building and the $7 million payment to Mr. Petrovich, and also the legal fees that this cost the city for something that they knew that they were guilty of. So, the point is that was the result of a lot of shady behavior. So what I'm suggesting here is because of that, that shady behavior that happened, we really need to open up the books on the nonprofits that do business with Sacramento, that provide services not only for homeless services, but for youth, and see exactly how these dollars are being spent. We shouldn't be if it's happening, we shouldn't be lining the pockets of people that are making high six-figure dollar salaries where people are still unhoused in the street. The other day I was driving around Sacramento too, running some errands, and You all say that there's no spaces, or not all of you, some of you. Well, there's two huge vacant Sears buildings, one in Arden Fair, and there's one on Florin Road. There's a big, huge hole in the ground over at 3rd and L. As Councilmember Harris said 2 weeks ago, there's 102 acres of property on Meadowview Road where 10 acres could be used. There's a vacant Rayleigh's on Freeport Boulevard. There's plenty of spaces for you to start housing people at very little cost. So I do not understand why you're not doing that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Keon Bliss, please unmute.
I think it's important a question to ask that whether or not the majority of this council is actually listening. I know some of you are, truly are, but it's really hard to tell when some of the more consequential members, the mayor, just walks out during the end of day comments when there is nothing actually preventing you from directly responding to that. In fact, there have been numerous governing bodies, from this council to the county board of supervisors, that shows that you could actually respond to even some of these things, which could actually go a long way to restoring some modicum of trust and respect that you also and gratefully demand a lot of times. And I bring that up because you insist on limiting people's ability to actually participate in deeply important conversations such as the Climate Action Plan, as you continuously do it, by combining items together so people only have 2 minutes for 2 items, even though they deserve at least 4 minutes. And the fact that you limit public comment to just 2 minutes when you have every right and power to expand that to no less than 3 minutes. People should be allowed. And I also noticed too that when the city clerk is not actually there at the dais, there are people in the city clerk's office who are more than willing to allow people to continue their comments without rudely cutting them off, as has been the modus operandi for the last few years. All of these things are choices, as previous callers have already mentioned. And respect is a two-way street. If you want it, you got to give it. And so far, based on what I've seen tonight and how we've been treated in the past, you're still not getting it and you're not giving it.
Thank you for your comments. Our next caller is Jonathan Connor. Please unmute.
Yes, hello.
We can hear you.
Connor here, District 7. An appeal to humanity. I'm reading this letter because we deem you influential. If you have given it a chance and read it, we already appreciate the act. We are cause, whether you are for or against, is an understandable move. Unlike what the narrative would have you believe, we are actually more understanding than just about any other dissident thinkers. All we request from you is acknowledging that you have listened to this and have positioned yourself either pro or against it. That's it. We will respect and consider it a fair choice regardless of your stance, as long as you make one. The choice, the question, do you want a future for the white race? Or do you want this
Madam
race?
Clerk, the caller is not germane to the authority of the city. Please end the call.
We have disconnected.
Move to the next caller.
Okay. As a reminder, all comments must be within the subject matter of the jurisdiction of the body as provided in Government Code 54954.3. Our next caller is call-in user 1. Please unmute.
Yes, this is Lambert Davis of To the Bay and Back Cheesecakes. First of all, I want to thank the lady who spoke about how I was rudely treated during the equity today, and then I was not allowed to speak when it said public comments not on the agenda. They didn't acknowledge my hand. I also want to say that Mr. Mac Worthy is vindicated. Recently, someone spoke about Mr. Petrovich winning a settlement. He won a settlement against the city. That's bigger than a judgment. It's a settlement. They settled with him. And then I was shocked to read in the Sacramento Bee that the city hall bought a building from him. Why would you buy a building from someone you settled with? That is what Mr. Worthy calls a whole house government. And the person who was highlighted that caused that, and by the way, it was a bias lawsuit settlement. That's what I've been pushing. It was City Councilman Chenier who was the key to the city losing. And he used to be very harsh and cruel to Mr. Worthy in the chamber. And I want to say this too. They could have taken that $8 million and put that into core, and that would have strengthened them, and not to mention to the Bay and Back Cheesecakes, which has never been caught in a scandal. You will not find that in their paperwork regarding City Hall. And I personally think that there should be an investigation on why would the city buy a building from a man who settled a biased lawsuit.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Scotty. Please unmute.
Scotty, please. Before I begin, my lawyer has advised me that I give you guys a verbal notice that if my 2 minutes are cut off due to any council member not liking what I have to say, we will be sending affidavits for multiple Brown Act violations and moving forward with the clear lawsuit for deprivation of civil rights. Your jurisdiction cope is meaningless. Get over it. You won't win. And everything I'm going to say is within city council jurisdiction, just so you know. I'm wondering why here in America, the so-called land of the free, we have non-government organizations such as the ADL harassing law-abiding citizens and doxing personal information that's illegally obtained because people dare to expose the tribe of Talmudic overlords. The ADL was founded on child rape and murder after Leo Frank was convicted of raping and murdering a little girl named Mary Fagan, which he then tried to blame on a black man, and even the KKK members didn't believe him, and Frank was lynched
Madam
for
Clerk,
his actions.
please inform the
ADL
speaker that they need to
was formed-
speak to the purview of the city. If not, cut off the caller.
This is because the city works with the ADL to try to shut my voice down. So this has everything to do with your city. You guys can let
State
people
your point,
ramble on
Madam
about
Clerk.
cheesecakes.
This is not this is not a subject matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative body as required by Government Code Section 549543. Do you have a comment regarding to? Okay. Our next caller is Daryl. Please unmute.
Daryl, please unmute your mic. Madam Clerk, move on to the next caller.
Our next caller is Alexander Schulston. Please unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mr. Schulston.
Good. It's Schulten Eaton. Thank you to the readers of my website, masanonews.com. You know you're over the target when you're getting the most flack. To find out who rules over you, find out who you aren't allowed to criticize. I'd like to thank the people who have taken the time to watch and comment on the past 4 months of city council meetings. They have received over 1 million combined views and tens of thousands of comments. Above all, thank you to Almighty God, friend of the humble and righteous, enemy of the proud and wicked. Thank you to the mayor and the city council, because your attacks on me, God, truth, the Bible, Christianity, and the First Amendment have sensationalized the truth as nothing else could. Thank you also to those who yell, scream, shout, face the wall, and throw a temper tantrum when it's my turn to talk, because you are showing the nation how dangerous you and your ideas are. Thank you to those who lie and call me an anti-Semite, Nazi, racist, bigot, and the rest of the leftist lexicon. You are revealing how false your ideas are and how they cannot hold up against honest criticism. Thank you to the mayor for encouraging some anonymous 20-somethings, thugs, hooligans, and hoodlums with little to no self-control to run wild in these meetings, and for allowing them to interrupt and to lie with impunity. For allowing these thugs to follow people to their cars, threaten them, and to use actual violence. You have showed the world that Sacramento under your leadership is a world-class disgrace. Lie down with dogs, rise up with fleas. We need to ask ourselves why the mayor and city council get along so well with these types. Christ said in John 8:44, "You are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it."
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Connor Barnstein. Please unmute.
Mr. Barnstein, please unmute.
Hello.
Go ahead, Mr. Barnstein.
Yes, I wanted to say the mayor's a little faggot, commie bastard, a Jew.
Madam Clerk, stipulate to the speaker that they are required to speak on matters and purview to the city. If not, cut the speaker off.
For Government Code 549543, you must speak on items that are within the subject matter of the jurisdiction. Do you have comments within the subject matter?
Yes.
You may proceed.
You all use disposition, the social and political economic disenfranchisement of white people in their homelands through policies such as mass immigration.
Madam Clerk, this is not within the purview of the city council. Please end the caller's time.
Our last speaker is Jeffrey Preen.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, I'm just blown away. I've been listening tonight to the way that you guys behave as a city council. As a member of Sacramento and a longtime resident, I've lived here my entire life. I'm just shocked, at how far we've come and how far we've fallen. I used to honestly believe in democracy. I used to believe in freedom. I used to believe in the Constitution. And I used to feel like we actually had a government that actually truly stood by the people, for the people. And the more that I've participated in these city council meetings and I've lived in Sacramento and I've listened to the way that you guys operate, you're an absolute embarrassment. I am just shocked at the lack of class and the lack of professionalism. You allow for thugs and violent vandals to come into the meetings. You have chain link fences blocking people from coming to the front to speak. This is not because of white supremacy. This is not because of bigotry. This is not because of any of the things that you speak about on the daily. You can go ahead and quote government code and shut people down and deny them their freedoms of speech because of speech you do not agree with. But it's disgusting. As somebody who's a taxpayer and a longtime resident, I'm embarrassed to call myself a Sacramentan. You have people like Keon Bliss, who's a blatant idiot racist. You have a dumb Jew kike mayor. You have a dumb...
Madam Clerk, please state to the speaker to speak to the purview of the city.
Your comments are not within Government Code Section 54954.3, which requires comments to be in the subject matter of the jurisdiction. Do you have comments that are within the subject matter jurisdiction?
Yes.
Proceed.
The homelessness is caused by your mayor. The homelessness is caused by the illegal alien vice mayor. The homelessness is caused...
Nope. No more. Those comments are done. And that does complete our public speaking for this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, that concludes our business for today. We are adjourned at 8. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilmember Valenzuela. Council member comments, AB 1234 reports and questions. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. A celebration of our incredible, diverse community and all of the amazing immigrants who make us a great city. I just want to announce that we have a printmaking festival at Southside Park this Sunday. It's hosted by Crocker Art Museum and the Latino Center of Arts and Culture, Sac State, and The Verge. It's called For the People, By the People. It is inspired by Estampas de la Raza, the Crocker's recent exhibit featuring the Royal Chicano Air Force, among others. This Sunday, August 27th, noon to 4. It is free. It will include art activities, music, artist talks, and poetry readings, and I hope you'll come by.
Thank you, thank you, Councilmember Valenzuela. Councilmember Kaplan.
Quick reminder.
Outlet, say that fast 5 times. City Hall is this weekend, and it's more
Natomas Regional Park from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Also want to thank Councilmember Valenzuela for donating part of the refreshments. If you want to donate snacks and others, this is teen-centric. You know they eat snacks. And then also Saturday, you heard earlier, is Dress for Success Women Equality Day from 9 to noon at Woodlake Park in Arden. And finally on Sunday at the North Natomas Regional Park, I was proud to partner, and there's the Festival de Bombas, which is the lowriders, and they're collecting dog blankets and other items from Front Street Animal Shelter from 10 to 3. So come on out and join us.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Kaplan. If my bomba could actually move, then I would move it over there. So with that, we are adjourned at 8:40 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for a wonderful day.
Good job, Wendy.
Good job, Wendy.
Thank you.